All right, welcome everybody. Should have a good time here today. We're going to talk about what is working in today's market. You're welcome to bring me all your objections, all your concerns, all of your fears. You can argue with me. You can tell me I'm full of it. No ego here. This is going to be stuff you don't get anywhere else. That's the goal, right? I could just keep making videos like everybody else does on YouTube that's either telling you, wait for the crash, catastrophe coming, there will never be a crash like this ever again. I mean, how many times have we been seeing that? Or I could be telling you, there's a lack of supply, just buy everything you can. I don't think the answer is either one of those things. So we're going to talk about how to buy in this market, where to buy in this market, where you find the soft spots that you can really take advantage of, and then how to be smart about doing that. So this is my first live. There's a very good chance that there's going to be some technical difficulty. So I just asked you guys to help me, or actually I should say be patient with me because I don't have any help. There's nobody here who's kind of working with the back end technical and administrative situation. So please spread the word. If you know anyone else that's interested in real estate, send them the link. Tell them that they should come on here. I'm going to be answering your questions. I'm also going to be bringing some people in to ask questions. So I'm going to put a link that I believe, if I can figure out how to do that you guys can use to be invited in to talk. All right. So here's how this works. There's a link I'm putting in the chat. If you want to come in and ask me a question specifically, tell me what your question is and say, I'd like to ask live. I will bring you in. You can ask your question, then I'll get you out of here and I'll answer it. And we can just make this a kind of a cool, personalized podcast that you get to be a part of. Janice says, hi, David. Thank you for all you do for our community. You do a great job sharing all your wisdom and knowledge with us. I really appreciate it. I became a fan. Well, thank you, Janice. This is your opportunity to ask me things that you normally wouldn't get a chance to or that I don't talk about on the podcast. So you guys want to know about my personal life? You want to know about like what goes on behind the scenes? Is real estate all BS? What should you make of different things you're hearing? If there's ever been anything that you always wanted to know, but you just didn't know where to ask, these lives are the place to do it. So as long as you keep everything respectful and appropriate, you can ask me anything you like. If it's something that I feel is out of bounds, we won't address it. But I would encourage you guys to get into controversial topics. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it raw. Whatever it is you want to do, we could talk about mistakes. We can talk about concerns in the market. It's all welcome here. All right. So I'm getting some people on Instagram. I'm going to let you guys know before I get out of here. You got to head over to YouTube if you want to keep watching. So we're going to shut down the Instagram live pretty soon here. You could go to youtube.com/David Green Real Estate, or you can click on the link in my story. So cycle through my stories and there's a link there that will take you right there. Thank you, everybody, and move on over. All right. Let's get to it, guys. By the way, is there anything, since this is the first time I've done this, that I need to know that is not going well? Did you guys all see the link in the comments there that you can click on if you want to ask? It looks like you did because Manny is there. So, Manny, maybe we could start with you. Let me see what your question is. Oh, I'm getting really good stuff here. I appreciate you. How many hours a night do you sleep? This is from Charles William. Charles, I'm pretty sure you're asking that because I have bags under my eyes, and that was a nicer way than saying you look like trash. I can acknowledge that. I often tell people I look like a mix of Dana White and Shrek when he hasn't slept for 3 years. It's just the way my eyes look, brother. Like, it's been this way since I was young and I was in shape. I still had bags. They have gotten worse, I've noticed, in the last 2 years. I don't know if that's like age, not being the healthiest. I don't sleep as much as I'd like to. I actually have a lot of bad dreams. I've got some PTSD from my world in law enforcement, and so I wake up a lot, like really amped up, and I don't sleep super great. But I don't think that's what it is. I really think it's just the way my face works, man. So if that was why you were asking, you don't have to. But if you had another reason why you were asking, feel free. Manny, can you ask your question again? I'm trying to find it. Oh, Charles is laughing at himself. I'm pretty sure that is why he was asking that question. Manny Moreno, I'm looking. You're the only person that has tried to come in live. I'm trying to see where your question is to see what we're going to be talking about. All right. If you could type a question in the comments, Manny Moreno, that's what I'm looking for. What is it you want to talk about? I'm just not seeing anything pop up. I'll ask a couple questions while I'm waiting on that from you. So let's get started here. Deshane, do you think getting a real estate license is worth it for a first-time investor? Is the MLS access worth it? No, I don't think it is. It's very expensive to get your license. It's a big pain in the butt. You're going to put a ton of time as well as a ton of money into that. MLS access is pretty much almost the exact same stuff you're going to find on Zillow or Realtor, or any of the other websites that people use. The only thing you'll get to see in the MLS is confidential remarks, and you can have an agent that does that for you. So no, I don't think that it's worth it, especially if you're new. The only people that should be getting their license to sell real estate are people that actually want to make a very concerted effort to sell real estate and make money. Michelle, is getting a HELOC at this time a good option? It's a good option for some people in some cases. It's bad because I think rates will keep rising. So this is what sucks about when rates go up, right? We just got used to them always going down. When they go up and you want to pull money out of your property, you got to give up the rate that you like. Like I just had to refinance out of some like 3.75 rates, and I think I went into 5.25, 5.5 or something. And that stings. No one wants their rate to go higher. But I pulled out over $1 million and I reinvested that into 7 more properties. And the money that I made from those properties is more than the difference in what I'm paying. So it's still a net win for me in several different areas. And we can get into the big picture stuff later. And this is a no-brainer win to do it. But that doesn't change the fact that it's not ideal. The HELOC is one way you can keep your current low rate, which is good. But the HELOC can get out of hand too, because as rates keep going up, that's adjustable. So here's what I would say. I would keep your rate if you can. Take out the HELOC when possible, but don't take like really big swings with that HELOC money. Okay. Borrow as little against it as what you really need to, so you don't get stuck with a $200,000, $300,000 HELOC balance on a rate. When it was 7%, you took it out, it balloons up to 13, 14%, something crazy, and you actually can't make the payment. All right. Let's see if Manny had any luck here. He was the first one to click the button there. I'm still not seeing it, and it looks like he had to get out. So, oh wait, let's see if we can bring Manny in. Manny, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you guys hear me?
Brother, what happened? How come I couldn't get you to put your question in there?
Yeah. So for some reason, when I was in the waiting room, it gives me a chat option down in the bottom right corner. When I click that chat box, it gives me an option for private chat and comment. I tried to put my question in the private chat, but it didn't seem like you got that. Then when I go to comment, yeah, when I go to comment, it doesn't give me a space to type anywhere on my phone. And maybe it's because I'm on my phone.
All right, that might be. Okay, we will give you an exception. What's your question here? What do you want to talk about?
Yes. So again, my name is Manny. I'm out here in San Diego. I just bought my first duplex that I'm looking to house hack thanks to Bigger Pockets and reading the books and listening to your podcast for over 3 years. And my goal is to live in the back unit with the roommate to offset costs. And I want to Airbnb the front units west of the 15, close to downtown, up and coming area. My question is, if you were me, what are the first must things you would recommend that I do to prep this for Airbnb? It's currently being renovated. So I know in tier 2, you don't need to go through the licensing, the lottery, because it's owner occupied, same address. So I just want to Airbnb it. But if you were me, this is my first time going to Airbnb this, what would you do so that I can start at a really high level and not make maybe mistakes? Because I know you have some experience with short-term rental.
Well, I'll be completely transparent with you guys. I'm buying a buttload of short-term rentals right now, but I haven't been managing them for a super long time. Okay. The 2 that I have had for a while, and I'm only saying this because there's so many people in my space that talk a big game. And then when you actually find out what they're doing, they're not doing as much. I don't want to give you guys that impression. I'm going to learn a bunch because I'm buying a whole lot of these properties, but I'm not, it's not like a Burr thing or a long distance situation where I've done this for a long time and I got a lot of stuff figured out. The two that I have are both in Hawaii, and they're like, they've done amazingly well because I bought them in the right place. And then Hawaii started cracking down on where people could do short-term rentals. So I bought it in the safest spot. And as everything else around them sort of gets taken away, that pushes people more into where I bought. So I also have a manager who's managing those. So your question is, first off, you bought in San Diego. It doesn't matter what you do, you're going to do great. It's one of the best markets to buy in. It's incredibly hard to get in, but you're going to find that once you're in, there's a reason why. So felicidades on that one. That's awesome.
Gracias.
It sounds like your question was specifically, how do you get it off the ground running as a short-term rental without making mistakes, or was it more of a permitting problem?
No. Just like, what will you do if you were me to start prepping to launch it on Airbnb? Like, everybody has different takes on, what you would do. What would be some first recommendations that you would do to make sure it's a successful launch and a great listing in your experience and perspective?
I can't help you with that. First thing, don't swing for a knockout right off the bat. You're not going to crush it until you get some solid reviews. So Rob and I are going through this with the property that we bought out in Scottsdale. Rob took too long rehabbing it, getting it ready, because he's one of those guys that likes everything to be perfect. So we spent too much and we took too long, which is fine. Rob, I love you if you're listening to this. He knew that that was likely going to happen. So by the time we went live, it was the summertime in Scottsdale. No one's traveling to the desert in June, July, August. So what we basically decided was like, hey, man, we're not going to rent this thing for a lot of money. We already went too long. Let's rent it for really cheap and get some really solid reviews. Okay. Like, maybe we could have rented it for $1,000 a night instead of the 2,000 we wanted. Maybe 800 is more realistic. Let's drop it down to 400, because who cares? Even though I'm losing half the revenue, I'm really only losing $400. It's not like I'm losing $1,000 like I would be to get the same thing going on when it rents for 2,000 a night. So let's take advantage of this opportunity where we're not going to make a ton of money and just get some really solid reviews going in. So that's one thing I would say, is you want to start off with momentum. And we can talk about that if you guys want. Momentum is grossly undervalued when it comes to real estate investing, wealth building, success in general in life. When you get momentum, it does the work for you. What you guys are really trying to do, as you're hearing this video, is you're trying to build momentum. You just don't realize that yet. So you get your first property, you're moving this path. What you're trying to get is momentum going on. So I'd say get really good reviews first, so it's going to show up more likely in the algorithm. Get the best pictures you can take. All right. Work backwards. So try to think of what would make this property show as good as possible, and then go spend money on that stuff. Don't go fix it up and then try to figure out how to make a picture look good. So I'd be okay to spend a lot of money on a little bit of design stuff. Like, for instance, like I have an Airbnb property I'm getting ready in Moraga, California. It's kind of like a high-end area in east of San Francisco. And I'm having the shower and the master bathroom redone. It's perfectly fine, but I want it to be like dope. So I'm going to build a rock wall out of really expensive rock as part of the shower. The material's really expensive, but I don't need very much of it. It's one tiny little accent wall. And I'm just going to get it so that it shows up in the picture and makes it look really, really nice. But the whole shower isn't going to be made like this. Okay. So I can splurge on something nice if it's small. And the bang for my buck I'm going to get is it's going to show up great in the pictures when I advertise that unit. It's going to more than pay for it. So you don't have to put the nicest tile, the nicest flooring over the entire house. That's really expensive. But maybe you do want to have one really nice piece of art, or a really nice piece of furniture, or something, if it's going to show up in the picture, because that's what people are going to book with. Those are, I think, the two biggest things you want to get. And from there, it's going to be solving the problems that pop up as you get it listed. There's going to be a ton of that. Okay. And just, that doesn't mean you did the wrong thing. Anytime you get in a new asset class, expect things will go wrong that you literally could not have anticipated. Don't beat yourself up. Like, it's supposed to go wrong. You'll fix it when it goes wrong. You'll build a system. This is why I tell people, don't go buy 6 houses at the same time you buy your first one. Right? It's not like I don't want you to go buy a property. It's that you're not going to be able to anticipate everything that could go wrong. So have it happen with one easy property, not 6 difficult ones. For someone like me that's in an asset class that I'm comfortable with, it's okay to go buy 6 houses at one time, because I'm going to anticipate 90% of the problems before they happen. That makes sense?
Absolutely. Can I ask a quick follow-up question on that?
Yeah, I was about to ask you to.
Perfect. One, that's great advice. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And one thing I was kind of looking for too, I should have been more specific, is like I know a big part of being successful in this game is systems and like automation. Do you have like a great for a newbie beginner for short-term rental, like a great system like implement like manage check-ins, automated messages, all that jazz, like because there's so many. I often get, maybe a lot of the audience can resonate with this. I get overwhelmed with all the options out there and the ton of, systems that you can choose from. Do you have like a top two or a system you would recommend a newbie like me to start with?
Well, I'm using property managers to manage the short-term rentals I have, so they're
Fair.
sort of the ones that have those systems in place, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the things that this is a controversial thing. I don't want to get into it too much. I think it's good for new investors to manage their own properties, especially short-term rentals. But on the other side, I don't think it's as important to learn some of the things that people think they need to, because you would leverage it out. Like, for instance, a ton of people ask me questions about loans. What about this loan? What about that loan? And like, if you have the right mortgage broker, they go figure all that out for you. You don't need to know. I don't even need to know. I only know because I need to tell people about it to get the phone to ring. Okay. So I would focus more on the parts of the business that are going to make you money, like getting the right properties, learning how the algorithm for Airbnb works to get more bookings. The system will come together as you get busy. There's also a ton of people that put that out there on YouTube. You could just Google like short-term rental systems and there'll be a ton of stuff. I feel like a lot of those guys put that information out there just to get views, right? It's sort of disingenuous in the sense that they're telling you you can make millions by getting a system down, but they're not nearly as complicated as what people think. I bet you there's people that are here on this call right now that know more about how to put a system together for short-term rentals. So I let my property manager handle all of that stuff. Do you have questions about specific things that you might encounter that I could tell you about with the systems might help you with?
I guess yeah, because what I hear, obviously short-term rental, it's not passive, it's more involved, and you're gonna be more involved. I'm a realtor. I work for an investment firm here in San Diego where I'm in acquisitions. So, and I'm also a traditional realtor, so I'm always on the move. So what I'm trying to for and sorry about that. What I'm trying to anticipate is how do I put systems in place that can kind of automate as much as possible so I can still focus on earning new business, working on my real estate career, and not be consumed by managing the short-term rental.
Yeah, that's a good point. You definitely don't want to buy yourself a job, which is what this
Right.
can turn into. How long do you think you're going to do it before you leverage this on to someone else?
That's a great question. I want to take your and Rob's advice. I do listen to you guys a lot, and I listen to his YouTube as well. Is I want to do it at least for 6 months to a year so I can learn the process and speak to it. And I really heard that advice from, I believe, you and Rob, where I want to do it where I can again learn it for myself and then go from there, gauge whether I should delegate it or keep doing it. But I don't know what I don't know because I haven't done it. But I really want to take your advice and do it myself
Okay.
first and learn the
You're
process.
asking the right question. I think you're just asking a little bit early. Here's what I would
Okay.
say: get involved with it. Listen to some other people that are like, this is all they do. They are just pure short term. This is how they like make their living, is buying these properties. Learn a little bit, come back on one of these future ones, maybe in a month or so, and then be like, all right, this is the system I implemented. Here's what's not working. Or how would you solve this problem within the system? I could probably be a lot more help to you that way.
Got it.
But you're asking the right question by trying to avoid this stuff ahead of time.
And then David, one last question. I think you'll appreciate this one. And that is, now that I'm in the process, I'm in the real estate world, fully immersed, and I'm always thinking about the next one. And my next goal is to do the stack method, like Brandon Turner says, and buy a fourplex, and then eventually 5 to 10, and keep stacking. Being in my situation, and all my cash is kind of tied up in this one property. Obviously, I want to earn more business, but what's the fastest way to go from where I am now to buying the fourplex a year from now, 2 years from now?
The fastest strategy to scale from where you are to buying more properties later:
Yeah,
make more money.
got
No
it. I
one
know.
wants to tell you that. But
Right,
like,
right.
here's a lot of people say, hey, you should get into real estate and learn how to buy it with no and low money down. Okay. You know that. You're a realtor. You could get yourself FHA loans. You could get yourself primary residence loans. you should hit us up at the One Brokerage, and we can get you connected with, things like that to do loans for you and your client. But after one deal a year, you're going to have to put at 10% down if it's a vacation property. Sometimes you can pull that off 20% down the majority of the time. So instead of just saying, well, I want to buy real estate with low money down, say, how do I let my drive to invest in real estate push me past my comfort zone so that I'm willing to get out there and do things I normally wouldn't do? So I'm buying a lot of properties right now that I haven't been buying in a long time. And I'm like, oh man, I might actually run out of money here. Like there's a lot of opportunities and I'm buying a lot. My mind immediately goes to what can I do to make more money? Okay. So now new business ideas are coming out of me. Stuff I've been thinking for a long time. I should do something like this or that, but I just don't really want to put the time into it. Now I'm actually doing it. So I'm putting together a retreat at the Scottsdale property I bought with Rob, where I'm going to be teaching people specifics about like what's working in today's market, how I'm negotiating my deals, how I picked them out, what price points, what areas, the locations I chose, all of the details about how I got these deals and teaching people specifically. I wouldn't have actually forced myself to do this if it wasn't for the fact that I want to make sure that I can keep buying real estate. So I would, oh no, we got somebody in the comment section here that's already hijacked this. Are you guys seeing all those stupid comments in there?
Oh no.
All
I
right,
can't see
we'll
them.
ignore that. Hopefully, maybe they don't show up on you guys. Maybe just the questions come in on my side. We have like a bot who's in here asking a bunch of stuff. So anyways, it's that drive to buy more real estate that has me actually putting some of this stuff into place. So don't rob yourself of that by just trying to find some deal without making more money. Like take your agent business to the next level. Use this information about what you're doing to help your clients do the same thing. Start talking nonstop about what you're doing with this duplex so that more people come to you and they say like, hey, I want to do the same thing. And then you sell more houses.
Love it. Thank you so much, David Gary. Appreciate all your time.
Congrats on that, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's keep this to the topic that we had. Who wants to talk about strategies that are working in today's market? I got who has questions like I see Mitt Patel. Which markets are you buying in? That's really good. So if you're somebody who's waiting, Lisa, you reported those people for me. God bless you. You just earned yourself. If you have a question, come in and ask it. For those of you that are waiting to get in, put a comment in here so that I can see what your question is, and we'll bring you in to talk about it. So that would be, I see Bruce, JT, Ryan, Eddie, Kyle, Juan. I see you guys all waiting to come in. I need to know what you wanted to talk about. All right, Manuel, you're welcome. I see you're able to comment now. Lisa, I like your question about the traveling nurse. Did you want to come in? All you have to do if you guys want to be featured here is you got to click on the link that I keep putting in the comments here. That will give you an opportunity to get brought in. I'll put it in there again. Do you guys see that when I put it in? It's like a StreamYard link that you can click on. Lisa's saying you can't come on. All right, let me see if I can figure out why. Oh, Nicholas here had some good something. Hey, David, it's two separate screens, one in the waiting room, so you can't ask a question on the YouTube chats, only the waiting room chat. So the people on YouTube are just watching, but they maybe they had to register to get into the StreamYard. Sounds like that's what the problem is. All right. Oh, that's why Lisa. Okay, so Lisa is in a loud area. She doesn't want to come in, but her first question was, maybe I got to take some people out of the studio. That might be part of the problem. Rather than you guys waiting for me to figure out how to do that, I will bring you in. Just do your best to ask a question that is about the topic of today's video, which is what is working in today's market. Ryan, you're up.
Hey, can you see me?
Yes.
I can't see you.
We can see you. And Ryan's out. All right. We'll see if we can get him back in again. Bruce, your hair's looking great.
How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. What's your topic you want to discuss here?
Yeah, just a quick question. Like with today's market, how is it changing your buying criteria? Are you buying stuff at typical ARV minus 75%, or
Hmm.
are you staying in that range or?
I don't know that I've ever liked that stat. That's really for flippers. That's where that came from. And I don't buy property where I'm in a situation where I have to sell it. Anything I buy, I could sell, or if I ideally I could hold it, and that would be even better. So when you're thinking about that, is that a metric you're using for buy and hold real estate, or are you a flipper?
So I'm excuse me. I'm wholesaling, and when I'm analyzing these deals, I'm kind of saying in the range between 70 and 75% for my buyers, and yeah, really just trying to hone that in. I've
So are you an agent and you're representing clients who are trying to find numbers like that?
no, just finding
Okay.
off-market deals myself, investors.
Like you're a wholesaler?
Yeah,
Okay. So I mean, people are coming to you because they're expecting you to do all their work for them, right? They want you to find this amazing deal. And so they're like, I'll buy it if you get me at 75% of what it's worth. Is that what you're saying?
right.
I don't think in your position, and I've never been a wholesaler, so take this with a grain of salt. I think what you got to do is just get as many motivated sellers as you can, find the best deal that you can, and then see who wants it. And I don't know if someone's rigid, like I'm only going to buy it if it's at 75% of ARV. I bet you could go find a realtor who's got clients that can't find anything that they could put in contract. And at 90% of ARV, that's still way better than they could get anywhere else. I'd like to see wholesalers and realtors start working together where I'm a real estate agent and I got a whole bunch of buyers that can't get in contract. And the sellers of those homes are expecting top dollar because they put as much into it as they can. And my buyers are frustrated because they can't find any meat on the bone. There's no value add for them. And then you got this other problem where you got some value add, but it's not enough. All your clients are greedy and they want a deal at 50% of ARV. So if you could get the realtor to get compensated from you on this opportunity and their client doesn't have to worry about it, and you can get your client to accept a situation where the buyers come in with a loan, because most realtors that's going to be the case. I think you could be a person that can, like, all right, I got this deal at 75% of ARV. I can hike my wholesale fee up. I can make more money so I can go find better stuff and have a bigger marketing budget. Or I could take this one at 90% of ARV and I could sell that to a realtor's client. So I would find the buyer's agents in your area that are frustrated because they can't get their clients in contract, and then have their investor clients that are happy to just find something you have that's not the deal of the century, but it's tore up, it's moldy, it doesn't look good, it smells bad, but it doesn't have to be the best deal ever. And I think you can offload a lot of stuff that way.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Any other questions?
No, that was it. I just wanted to get your feedback on that.
Yeah. Good luck, Bruce.
Appreciate it. All right, JT.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for asking.
Oh, let me try to get back in here. So I don't know if this really applies to today's topic, but I'm trying to get another short-term rental. I'm about to refi out of one of our. We're doing a rehab, and then we're going to refi, pull some cash, and I want to get another short-term rental in an area that I already have one, but I don't know if I have to put 20% down. I already have a second home there, so I don't know if is there another way to do it with putting less than 20. I already did 10% down in that area with a second home. Does that
And you're
make
trying to buy
sense?
investment property?
Yeah.
Probably not. You're gonna have to put down 20% to buy an investment property with just about every loan. Like we have some we can get you at 15% down, but it's not a huge difference from 20, right? That's why I don't talk about it a lot. If you go to the one brokerage, ask about our 85% loan to value products. They're all still 30-year fixed rate, but we can get you with 15% down a lot of time. I think you're probably better off in this situation finding someone else to kick in. So like just having two loans. So if you got to put 20% down on the house, just borrow 10 or 15% from someone else, put them in second position on the mortgage and pay them a higher rate than they could get with their money in the bank. Rather than finding a lender to give you the whole thing, right? And here's something you might not have thought about. while rates for mortgages have gone up significantly, the money that people are making on their money in the bank hasn't really done that. So you may find a person that's excited about a 6, 7, 8% return. And that's not a whole lot different than what you're borrowing when you go get it from the bank. So it used to be that you had to pay like maybe double to get a second position lien. But with rates as low as they are for people that are just trying to collect money, or maybe they don't trust the stock market, they don't want to put their money into something like that. Like bonds are not that high, treasury bills are not that high. I think you're better off to go find private lending, take that money, put it towards the deal, then find a lender that will finance you a bigger chunk.
Copy that. Makes sense. Right on. Thank you. That was all I got.
Last piece of advice I'll give you for that. If you can take the place you got, get it cash flowing, show somebody that it's cash flowing for a period of time, go borrow against that property first, right? Because what you're thinking is I need to get the money for the next property. Well, you could leverage the one you already have as collateral and use that money to buy the second one. You don't have to borrow the money for the second property. Our brain tends to look at it like that. But if you can borrow a certain amount of money against the first one and the person is willing to let you lend and you show, well, this one already cash flows, so they feel good about it. Now you got part of the down payment to go put towards your next one, rather than trying to get the down payment for the next one before you have a track record of cash flow.
Okay. Gotcha.
All right.
Perfect.
Good luck,
Thank
JT.
you.
All right, let's answer a couple questions here. I see Stacy. Welcome. Stacy is one of my agents in Southern California. So if you guys are looking for an agent down there, Stacy would be a great option. Bruce is already asking how he can reach out. It's probably STACEY, Stacy at Stacy, what is your email? Is it Stacy at DavidGreen24? Or do you have a Keller Williams email? We'll let her work that out. All right. Joshua, I'm looking to buy out here in the greater Sacramento area. You should definitely email Kyle. He's my chief operating officer and real estate agent, and he lives and works in Sacramento. His email is in the chat for you there. Lisa, what do you think about the traveling nurse market? I love that market. I have 3 burrs going on right now, and they are all going to be catered towards not necessarily only traveling nurses, but traveling professionals. They're not short-term rentals. They're not traditional rentals. They're right in the middle. They're like 30-day or more stays. I'm trying to kind of get ahead of where I think the short-term rental market is headed, which is a lot of competition, and try to get myself established for traveling professionals with a very similar setup, because you still got to furnish the property. You're still going to manage it in a similar way. So I'm buying in some of the better areas. I'm looking for properties that have a lot of square footage that I can convert into more units that I can rent to those people. So I think the traveling nurse market is where you're going to hear a lot of people talking about in the next 3 years or so as a short-term rental market. Remember when that was new? Everyone was getting into this. Everyone has been crushing it. Well, eventually the real estate locusts all move into that space, and they make it harder and harder to be able to find the returns you're looking for because there's competition. So you always want to be a step ahead of what everyone else is doing. And I think right now, that's one of the ways that you can get a step ahead. We actually talk about that in the mastermind that I run, like some of the strategies that I'm using. And so if you guys go to davidgreenmastermind.com, you can learn a little bit more about that information. I'll put that URL in here too. But that's like one of the things that I like to spend my time talking about. It's not just where most investors are looking at, how do I find the best deal right now? How do I get this seller to take my offer? I like to think big picture much more than other people do. Like we had Manny who just bought that duplex. In 10 years, he's going to have made so much money buying San Diego real estate like that winning at every little tiny negotiation that people tend to think about when they're caught up in the weeds won't even be relevant compared to the money that he made buying in a market like that. Midterm rentals. There you go. All right. Let's bring in, is it Eddie or Edie?
Oh, wow. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm excited. Thank you so much.
This is my first time doing this, and I got to say, this is kind of fun. Like, I think I might do this more often. I like it more when I can interact.
Why not?
Yeah. So how do I pronounce your name? Did I say it right?
It's Edie.
Edie. Okay.
Yes. And I've enjoyed following you. I guess it's to Fort Walton Beach. I grew up in Mobile. So,
Nice. Yeah, I love that area. Fort Walton's a great place to buy.
I mean, that was our summer, Fort Walton, Panama City, Redneck Riviera. You've probably heard that by now.
Absolutely. So what's on your mind today?
So I finally, after a few months, got a HELOC, and I'm going to write an article about that because that wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be, but I did it. And so I've looked at a few properties. I own a townhouse in Boca Raton. So taking that HELOC out to put as a down payment on another property. But the tricky part is this timing where I need to get a renter in to rent out this townhouse. It's a lovely townhouse in a mile from the beach. But timing that so that I'm ready to make an offer on something else. Like I found a house, I actually made an offer today on a $600,000 single family that we can move into so rent this out. But I probably did things a little backward, right? I feel like I should have gotten my renter, it has to be an annual renter because of our HOA. So just, is there any, well, I don't really know if there's some tips on that, but just whatever your perspective is on finding that sweet spot of you can't really go find a renter if you don't have a property. But if you find a great property that you feel like is going to be a great deal, then how long is it going to take me to find a renter? So it all kind of works out at the same time. I don't know if that's making any sense.
Yeah. Before I answer that, let me just put this out, guys. Don't join the studio right now. I'm kicking you out of it. We're gonna have you say what your question is, so we can make sure the questions are relevant to the topic. And then once I see the question, I will invite you to click on the link. So please don't click on them previously, because that's why other people can't get in the studio, to only let so many people in at a time. So I think you're worried about something that isn't super normal to, or I don't say normal, it's not relevant to be worried about.
Okay.
If you find the right property, there will be plenty of people that want to rent it. So
Yeah.
you shouldn't be the person that's having to actually find the tenant in the first place. A property management company can do that for you pretty easily.
Yeah.
It's focusing on finding the property. Now, during your due diligence, you're going to want to check with the property manager and like, what's the demand for this? How many people? Okay, hang on a second here. Josh, don't click to enter the studio. You guys are getting kicked out for a reason. So I need you guys to wait, and I will call you out by name and ask you to enter the studio. If you're trying to find the tenant yourself, that's why you're getting this problem of like, well, do I find the tenant or do I find the place? There's so many people that need a place to stay that if you find the right property, you're going to have your pick of the litter. There's gonna be a ton of them. And that's what you want, is you want more tenants than you actually have the ability to put into the property.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep. Thank you for asking. All right. Let's go back to the questions here. All right, Lisa. Lisa can go live. So yes, Lisa, why don't you click on the link there and we will talk about midterm rentals, get your thoughts, and we'll talk about where I would say you guys should be looking in today's market. Basically, like, here's the philosophy that I have. You look for where there's opportunity, where the best real estate is, where there's soft points in the market, where you're likely to make money. And then you ask what strategy would work with this property. Can I buy short term? Can I buy traditional? Is this a BRRRR situation? Is this a midterm rental? Should I buy multifamily? Instead of I'm a multifamily investor or I want to do a BRRRR, how do I make that work at the market that I'm in? So I think that people get caught up looking at it in the wrong terms. Like, all right, I'm a cash flow investor. I want to buy small multifamily. I'm going to go to Indiana. Well, why? Well, because that's all I can afford. But what if there isn't money to be made in Indiana? But that's the only place my strategy works. It's a different way of approaching it. So I think we're better off to talk at this meeting about what strategies work for getting the better deals. And then, okay, I've got this property. How do I manage it? Do I need to go short term? What options do I have? So that's why I'm switching into short term rentals, because they're allowing me to buy higher price real estate that's likely to appreciate a lot more, where revenue should go up, and I'm getting it undervalued. I'm getting it at more than less than I believe it's objectively worth. So, Lisa, okay. Lisa's looking for the link. I'll put that in here. All right, Lisa, I just put the link in there. Are you seeing it? Or if you're on YouTube, I think there were some people that are having a hard time seeing the link. Chris says, what are short-term rentals? Those would be something you'd find on a website like Airbnb or VRBO. And people rent it out for a short period of time. All right, Juan Carlos, did you say what topic you want to talk about in the video today? Did you put a comment in there? Melissa, thank you for saying nice things about Stacy there. We like her too. All right, Felicia. Hello, Felicia. She's probably used to hearing bye, Felicia. So it's nice to tell a Felicia hello. They don't hear that as often. How are you 1031ing your properties in this market? I can't imagine the moves you're making in that space. All right, I will get into that. So first off, I was kind of forced to sell a lot of properties faster than I would have wanted to because of a title fraud situation that I got into with someone stealing the title of properties. That was a huge, huge mess. And I was able to finally get it back, and then I had to sell them. So I was pushed into a 1031 that I didn't necessarily want to get it to at this point in my life. And so I sold about 26, maybe 25 properties, and I had to reinvest that money. There's a lot of rules that go into 1031s that I was aware of, but this was my first time actually doing one because I rarely ever sell properties. I've only sold a handful in my entire career. I keep almost everything I buy. So I wasn't intimately familiar with 1031 regulations. Well, there's one that I had never even heard of. And many of you will be surprised. A handful of you probably know this. There's a rule that says if you sell a property that you want a 1031, you can only identify twice as much real estate as what you sold. So part of the rules of a 1031 is you have a 45-day identification period. That means you've got that long to give the list to the government that says, here's what I want to go buy. We've got 180 days to close on it. So I was watching that I just sold my properties, and now I have to go buy into a market that is coming down. Rates are going up, prices are coming down. So I didn't want to rush out there and buy a bunch of stuff on the first day as I'm watching the market soften. So I'm kind of researching the markets I want to buy in. I'm interviewing the realtors. I'm putting the search together. I'm getting to know the market. I wrote a couple offers here and there, but nothing aggressive. And as I'm watching, it's softening, it's softening, it's softening. Days on market are going up. I love that. I'm going to get great opportunities. So my goal was I would put together the biggest list I possibly can, identify as many properties as I could, and then only pursue the properties from that list. But I could take my time because I have that 180 days to close. In my mind, this is how I thought this was going to work out. So I would just keep writing aggressive offers and watching days on market climb. And I would go after the stuff that was the most motivated seller. And if something turned around and the market got hot and it got away, okay, I'll just go buy something. There's no point of waiting at that point. I did not know that I could only identify twice as much real estate as I sold. Now, here's why that is rarely ever an issue. If you sell $1 million worth of real estate and you owed $600,000 on that real estate, you have to reinvest $400,000 minus whatever your closing costs were. Well, if you sold $1 million, you can identify $2 million. So identifying $2 million worth of real estate and having $400,000 to invest is pretty easy to do, right? You don't need $400,000 is like, $2 million homes or whatever, or a lot more smaller homes. So it's not that difficult to reinvest $400,000 if you get to go identify $2 million worth of real estate. In my case, I didn't owe very much on the properties. I think I sold the portfolio for around 3.9 million, and I only owed about 400,000 on it. So the way that it worked out is I was able to identify about 7 million of real estate, but I had to invest $3.5 million. And that was very tricky to do. So I couldn't pick very many homes, and I had a lot of money. And so I didn't realize this rule until we submitted our list 2 days before my 45-day period. Like, my life got wild. So day 43, we give our list just to make sure everything's cool. Then they tell us about this rule that says you can't identify this many properties. You can only identify 7 million. I'm like, but I got to spend $3.5 million. And I have 1 day to give a new list of the properties that I'm identifying, and I can only close on those properties. So the problem is, if I listed a home on that list and I couldn't put it in contract, I can't buy it. Like, I can only buy the stuff on that list. So I was looking in 3 markets. I was looking in Tennessee, I was looking in Florida, and I was looking in Georgia, and then I guess Scottsdale. So I had 4 markets I was looking at. And I had to tell the realtor, well, first off, I had to pick like 1 realtor, maybe 2 realtors to work with. I couldn't be picky. I said, you literally have to go put it under contract today. And I'm not putting it on a list of what I'm identifying until it's put in contract. Okay. So if the listing agent doesn't get back to you, throw it off the list. If the sellers are like, we need a day to think about it, throw it off the list. Like, if it's a property that just hit the market and they want to review other offers, throw it off the list. Like, this went from being very tactical and careful, and I want to make sure I do everything right, kind of like a sniper, in Call of Duty, to that 12-year-old crazy kid with ADD that's just running around spraying and praying everywhere. Like, it was the opposite of what I was hoping to do. But there's nothing I could do. Like, sometimes life just throws these things at you and you have to adapt to it. So those are the rules I came up with. I have to put a contract on the first day. I'm going to focus on Tennessee because I felt like the days on market were highest there, and I had the best chance of putting a rental property under contract that I may not get the best deal ever, but it wasn't going to be a terrible deal. These properties were coming fully furnished, not a ton of work. I had a decent rental history. There wasn't like a big upside, but there also wasn't a downside. And that stability was really important for me in a situation where I have to buy property I may not even want to be buying, if that makes sense. Like, it's more important that I buy something than that I don't buy any. Like, it's okay to buy a deal if it's not great than to not buy a deal at all. It was probably somewhere between $1.5 million and $2 million in taxes I was going to owe if I couldn't pull off this 1031 that I had about 24 hours to do. So it was a wild, crazy day. I was in Florida. I was looking at homes. I was trying to put stuff in contract as I saw it, as my realtor in Tennessee is basically working all day long, making as many calls as he can, trying to figure out what sellers will accept a contract now. We had several situations where it was something like the agent says the guy would accept our offer, but the guy's a pilot and he's not answering his phone. And we would have to like text the flight attendants to go knock on the door and be like, you need to give your agent verbal permission to sign this for you in the next 3 hours before they have to. And he's like, why do I have to rush? Like, well, it's a 1031. Well, if they're smart, now they know they don't have to give me anything in concessions when it comes to negotiating, right? Like, I basically just told them I'm in a position that I can't back out of this deal. So it was hell. This is not the way you want to go do the biggest transaction of my career at that point, which was I got to invest $4 million or $3.5 million in 24 hours in markets I've never been in, right? I learned a ton. I think I came out of it better, but I'm probably giving you guys like 20% of the chaos that was. So you're asking like, how are you 1030 when your property's in this market? Not the way that I wanted to. I can tell you that. I'm very happy with how it turned out, considering how wild that got. That could have been a complete disaster. I really feel like I bought about, I don't feel like I bought about 10 properties. I think I did buy 10. I feel like only 2 of them were, I don't love those deals. So, and they were the first 2 that I put in contract. So out of the 10, 2 of them were super safe bets. Those both appraised for more than I paid, but they were like kind of basic cabins that I wouldn't have normally been excited by. But I just thought like, I got to get something here, because I was thinking, what if I just get skunked and I can't put anything in contract? At least then I would have an option that I could have like paid cash for a couple of them, and I wanted these 2 cheap ones that I could use the loan for. And then if I could just buy one $3 million cabin or something if I absolutely had to. So they were like my backup plan. Then the next 2 that I bought, I just paid a little more than I thought I needed to. So one of them was in a resort listed at $1 million. I think I put it under contract at like 972 with maybe 15,000 in closing costs. So it wasn't bad, and it was like really nice place. But it was a 4-bedroom cabin, and I got a lot more for my money when I went outside of that like 2-year-old resort style. And then the other one would have been a great deal. I knew this was either going to be a home run or I knew this was going to be a strikeout. It was like, oh, it was this small cabin, but it had a huge pool. It was like the pool was in a separate building. So you would cross this little bridge across this really cool stream and walk into a gigantic, like literal pool house. It was like a structure built around an indoor pool, but the pool was huge. And I knew like, oh, people are going to love this. The problem is the pool was empty and it was being worked on. And so I didn't know, are they going to get this pool finished? Or are they not? I wrote into the contract that the pool has to be done to my specifications or I can back out, but that's all BS because I really can't back out. It's a 1031. They don't know that, but I knew that. So it ended up being the case where the pool was still leaking at the time of closing. And I had to be like, I just got to eat it. Like, this sucks, but I'm going to have to. I ended up negotiating a $30,000 closing cost credit on that one when I put it in contract. And then I got another $30,000 to put in escrow to fix the pool later. So it could have been worse, but you never know with the pool. It could be a $10,000 problem. It could be a $70,000. Like $70,000 was my worst case scenario. If I got to rebuild the pool, this is what's going to happen. So getting extra $30,000 to put towards it, I like mitigated the risk some. But it's not bad because those were the two deals I didn't like the most. And they still appraised for a little bit more than what I paid. The other 6 were killer. I just ended up way better than I thought that I would. I appraised for significantly more than what the properties went into contract for. There's a lot of comps of other houses that went under contract that were frankly, my house was better than theirs and the other people ended up paying significantly more. And that was just things like targeting stuff that I've learned in my time as a realtor are poorly marketed properties with very motivated sellers and going after the right one. So at the retreat I'm putting together, that'll be in Scottsdale. That's the stuff I'm going to be getting into. I'm going to be sharing the details of like, when you see pictures like this, that should catch your attention. Here's what that would mean. You should target these homes, right? You're going to get a much higher likelihood that the seller's going to take your offer in this situation than if you target these type of pictures or this type of listing, or if you set your search up this way, you're going to see all this stuff. But if you set your search this up, you're going to see the stuff that everybody else is missing and sits for longer. So that's how that 1031 worked out. And then I learned so much during that 1031 that I kept buying outside of it. So I put another 3 cabins under contract outside of the 1031. And I think I have, let me look here, 3 properties under contract in Florida, 1 in Castro Valley, California that I just put in contract 2 days ago. And I have 1 in Scottsdale that I verbally have an acceptance. I'm just trying to figure out if that's one that I actually want to ride or if I want to go for bigger swings. So the one in Scottsdale, it looked like it was priced pretty well at 1.65. There's other houses that are priced at 1.75 that are not as nice as this one. And we're kind of verbally at 1.55. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go see, can I get something better for the money at 1.55 million than this property, or that I might like more? And then write other offers on maybe some $2 million properties. See if I could get one of those for like 1.7 or something like that. If not, I'll probably have this one in my back pocket. So I know I'm kind of giving you guys like a very high level understanding of what's going on, but what works in today's market is you go look for the houses that everybody else doesn't want to buy. That's really the key. If you're trying to buy a starter home with an FHA loan and there's already 7 buyers for that same property, you're not going to see the prices reduce like what people think. Just because interest rates go up does not automatically mean that across the board prices go down. It's very disproportionate how we see rate hikes affect real estate. Let me give you guys an example of what I'm talking about. Who here wants to come in and discuss what I mean by this? Like, maybe we can walk through if they'd like to be featured on this episode. Who has a question related to what type of properties they could be looking for, how they can be advising their clients? Let's see if any of you guys are putting those type of comments in. Devin said, I'm genuine and transparent. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Okay, Adam have we talked through what your latest 60 properties is and what you think we should focus on the market? It's not 60 properties. It's what I bought in the last 60 days. I haven't bought 60 properties in 60 days. That's a little insane. I don't even want to give you the impression that I'm doing anything close to that. All right, Alexandra Morales, you have showed that you can follow directions. So why don't you click on the link, come in, and we will go back and forth about your questions about what types of properties to pursue in today's market versus what to avoid. And in the meantime, Lisa has finally figured it out. She's come in. Hey, Lisa.
Hey, thanks for taking my video. Couple things. So what's the best way to market to the traveling professionals?
Can you hit turn the volume down on your computer there? All right. So as far as marketing traveling professionals, I've learned it's one of those things that you don't have to learn how to do. If you put your property up on the places they're looking, Airbnb, Furnish Finder, I bet you there's tons of people in this chat that know even more than I do about those things. They find them for you. Okay. Like this is just an overall principle I want you to understand with real estate investing. Have anyone ever talked to an agent, or at least have you ever spoken to an agent when you wanted to sell your house? And they say, I'm a marketing expert. I will get your house in front of more eyeballs than any other realtor. I will make sure all these people see your house. Is that like, have you heard that pitch from realtors before? Sorry, I think I told Lisa to quiet her computer and now she can't hear me talking.
I'm still having problems with volume, and it's a lot of feedback. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on.
It's okay. Are you doing this on 2 different devices maybe?
You know what? Maybe I am. Hold on. There we go. Let's try that.
All right. I think we're good. Just fix the problem there. So
besides a dedicated workspace, great Wi-Fi, what else would you put in the house for that midterm
Now you're
investor?
looking the right way. So what the overall big picture did you hear my question about the realtors and the marketing pitch that they give?
No.
Okay. I'll restate it briefly. What I was saying is, have you ever had a realtor that wanted to sell your house and they said, I'm a marketing expert. I will get this in front of more eyeballs than anyone else. More people will see your home. I'll get it out into the world. And that's kind of their pitch.
Yeah.
Okay. That was a good pitch 30, 40 years ago.
Right.
Maybe 20 years ago. And the reason is that in order to sell a house, you needed as many people to see it as possible. So you'd go put the listing in the newspaper, you'd go put it in a magazine, you'd put in the classified ads, you'd put flyers everywhere. You needed people to see a house, like, oh, I want to buy a house. There's a house for sale. Okay. The minute we started putting the MLS together, and then we had portals like Zillow and Redfin where everyone could go see every house, that whole approach became completely purposeless. There is no secret list of buyers that no one else knows. Like, I'll sometimes get people say, well, if you want to list my house, are you going to market it on Facebook? It's like, dude, first off, no one's looking on Facebook. And if they are, they don't see a house and say, I'm going to go buy it. That looks nice. They say, oh, I see this house for sale that I'm looking at. What's every other house that I should go look at? And they go right to Zillow and they compare it to that. You're never going to find a buyer that way. Okay. In the world we live in now, it's not about getting it in front of people that wouldn't have seen it. It's about being better than your competition in the place that everyone looks. Now, getting your house in the perfect condition it could be in, getting the best pictures taken it could be in, pricing it in a very appropriate, competitive way that gets buyers interested and gets them emotionally connected. And then from there, I can jack the price up with how much interest I have. That's what a good realtor does in today's market. So let's talk about like how that would apply to the Furnish Finder situation you're in, or short-term rentals. It's about getting the listing to show up higher within the medium that you're going to be marketing it. Okay. So there's certain little things you can do that are quick, easy fixes. This would be getting strong Wi-Fi and advertising my internet speed is this. Okay. But it needs to be significantly more than your competition, or they just expect that. All right. What we started doing in some of mine was putting in a workspace, which is kind of silly because I feel like you could just put a laptop on your lap on a couch. You have a workspace, but literally I would put a computer and a chair and a little thing for pens like this. Okay. Mm-hmm. At the end of a countertop. And it's like, oh, they have a workstation. And now it shows up higher in the search. Okay. That's like a little thing that you can do. I've learned to find it so it can sleep more people, but no one's really ever going to use it for that purpose. So like my Maui condos have 1 bedroom and 2 bathrooms. The 1 bedroom can sleep 2. And then I put 2 Murphy beds in the front room. So there's a Murphy bed is one of those beds that like goes on the wall and it lays down. And then I also put in a futon. All right. So I can sleep 6 where other people can sleep 2. But how many people traveling to Hawaii are going to go with 3 other couples or 2 other couples? And like those couples are going to sleep in the family room. It's most people aren't going to actually sleep 6 people in those rooms unless they have kids or something. So we take the pictures and show what it looks like. And then we fold out the beds and say like, if you're going to be sleeping 6, this is what you're getting. The sleeping 6 makes it show up in more searches. But I don't actually get people booking it to sleep 6 because they realize it's not a comfortable sleeping of 6. Are you following me there? All right. So those are some short, easy, quick things that you could do to make it show up faster. What I would do is I would focus on a property itself that has a unique feature or amenities that other properties don't have. Okay. I think the wrong way is to go buy a cookie cutter condo in an area that everyone visits and say, how do I make my cookie cutter condo stand out? It's an uphill battle. All right. I would rather go find a property in an amazing area with incredible views that has a really big lot it's closer to amenities than something else, that has more square footage, that has something cooler, a huge TV, like arcade games put into it, something that it's like, oh, I don't get that anywhere. And then make that property work for the purpose that you're talking about here. That's a completely different story, right? If you can show that, you imagine coming home to these views and it's not the neighbor's fence or something because you just bought one of those tract homes. I think you're better off starting with that. All right. With that in mind, tell me what you're thinking.
Well, I've got 1 traveling nurse and 1 short-term rental in Jonesboro, Tennessee right now. And the traveling nurse one is cash flowing so much better. And it's an adorable little duplex. I've got another Airbnb that I just bought on a 1031 exchange that I may turn into a traveling nurse rental because it's got a great view. Just like you said, it could also Airbnb. So I like it for the dual purpose. And then because of the 1031, I'm stuck with that cookie cutter townhouse in Sevierville that I will probably have to turn into a traveling nurse or, professional because I'm at my 12-day mark. I have to identify something and get it under contract.
Something that makes me think of when I was new in real estate, I was always, and I do this with everything, like you start a new thing and you have all these ideas that you're going to change the world. You're going to change the game. And then you're in the game long enough and you're like, yeah, location, location, location. That's basically why these old dogs all say the same thing. You get the right location, you make the property work. You can change everything about a property except where it is. I mean, even in an area that works, if your property is at the bottom of the hill versus the top of the hill, and the property at the top of the hill has killer views and the property at the bottom is looking at the dumpster, like that sucks. You can't move that. And so the longer I've done this, I would make way more money if I put together a specific course that taught people a specific thing, because that's what people always come asking. Can you show me like the secret technique to rank higher in the Airbnb algorithm? Everyone wants that. They all come looking for that. And if I gave people what they wanted, I could make way, way, way more money than I do. And it would be much easier. It just isn't actually helping them. Okay. Like helping people is focusing on the fundamentals. And you kind of learn the hard way. I would say be okay getting rid of that place in Sevierville that isn't working out. Either sell it to someone else or manage it as best as you can until the market turns around and then sell it as soon as you can. And don't take it as a loss. Just I'm redeploying that capital in a way that is more efficient, as opposed to leaving it inefficient. Because if you keep it and you're like, I got to find a way to make it work, your ego is going to get beat up. You're not going to like real estate investing. You're going to want to not do it anymore. If you look at it like, yeah, it's okay, but it's not great, or it's mediocre, or even less than that, that's okay. I'll get the capital out and put it somewhere else. I'd be okay if I put 150 grand into a property, I had to sell it and I recovered 120, and I put that 120 into play in a new project. You could look at it like you lost 30,000 and that's a loss, or You could go take that 120, go buy another property that's going to gain equity much faster than the one you took it out of, do a little bit of a value add. And not only did you get back the 30,000 that you lost by redeploying it better, but your cash flow is significantly higher. And so your money's working harder for you. I think too many people make a mistake and they're like, yeah, I suck at this, I shouldn't do it, versus you should expect to make mistakes. And now that you've figured out this traveling nurse thing, go hard on that niche. Throw everything you have into what's working and don't worry about the stuff you tried before that didn't.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you for working through your problems so that you could come talk with us here. I think that was
Thanks
great.
for
We all
being
got value out of
patient.
it.
Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Lisa. All right, we can now get to Alex, who has been patiently waiting. Thank you for that, Alex. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing good. So basically I have like 80,000 saved ready to put on a down payment in Southern California, like Los Angeles area. That's where I live. And so I was thinking of buying like a duplex and doing one as a short-term rental and the other as a long-term rental, or just buying a short-term rental property. So I was thinking in terms of the market right now, where do you think I should do that for location?
In Southern California?
Yeah.
So you're looking to find a duplex and use half of it as a traditional rental and half of it as a short-term
I
rental?
was thinking that, or just buying a single family and maybe doing a short-term rental, whatever works at this point. This would be my first deal that I would be closing on. So I'm kind of just open. I've been researching a lot of different things and kind of opening to finding, like you said, my niche so I can focus on something like that.
How familiar are you with regulations in the area that you're living in for short-term rentals?
Not too familiar.
Okay. That would be one of the first things to look at, because you might have a great plan and then go put in place and you find out LA doesn't let you do short-term rentals in that way. So
Okay.
I don't know every single rule and every single law for every single area, but like I was saying earlier, I don't really need to, because I just work with the people that know the answers. So I would like to connect you with my Southern California team who does this constantly. They will be intimately familiar with those rules. What I do like about what you're saying is if you're buying it as a primary residence, like it's a duplex. Do you mind muting your phone real quick? I think we can hear that.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Working on. There we go. Better. I'll tell you to unmute when it's time to talk. If you do buy a primary residence, a lot of those rules that prohibit short-term rental action don't apply if it's your house. Like they don't like investors, so they make rules against these evil investors that are buying up all the inventory. But if you buy a house to live in and it's your own, all of a sudden now you can do whatever short-term rental stuff that you want. So I like the idea of getting a duplex, a triplex, a fourplex. And you can pay more than someone else could pay for that same house, because where they might be getting $2,000 a month in rent, maybe you get $6,000 per unit as a short-term rental. So don't get caught up in like, well, that thing should only be worth $700,000 and they want $800,000. Well, if you're using it, you can triple the revenue of what someone else could get. It's worth $800,000 to you, right? So you're better off to find the right property and pay more than you want to, then find the price you like on a property that doesn't work for what you're trying to do. You'll ultimately make less money. Are you with me so far? Okay. So Stacy here is actually saying she's in Southern California. She actually came up to intern with me in Northern California. So I have vetted her personally and she's great. You will love her. She's offering to help you with this. So if her email isn't in the chat there.
I have her on Instagram. I could message her.
I was about to look up her Instagram page.
I just followed her like last week.
Message Stacy to do that. And let me tell you this, you will go into it with the expectation that you want to get cash flow, which is great. I want you to get cash flow. What you will find when you buy in a market like Southern California is you will make so much bloody money in appreciation over 5 to 10 years that you will wonder why you worried so much about maximizing whatever cash flow you could get. Okay. So this is not me bashing on cash flow. I'm bashing on the way people value cash flow. Okay. I think personally, cash flow is beneficial in the sense that it stops you from losing a property. You will not be going to foreclosure if it cash flows. Okay. It's great for holding a property, not losing it, but the cash flow isn't what makes you money. It's the demand for that property going up and the supply staying constrained, because there's not a lot of property to buy in Southern California. And obviously we can see from the video, it's really nice there. There's a ton of people that want to live there. The weather is amazing. The opportunities are really big. There's tons of people moving to Southern California. This is not North Dakota. They can't build enough houses for the people that want to live there. Anything you buy is going to make really good money. It needs to cash flow so you don't lose it. Okay. Don't buy a property and bet on appreciation. Buy it with cash flow so you'll keep it, but understand the cash flow won't make you rich. That appreciation will. So if I was in your position to be, how can I buy as many of these as I can, at least one every year, using some low down payment options that Stacy can get you connected with the one brokerage so we can help you with that. Make sure it cash flows so that you're safe in case you lose your job or anything goes wrong. But if one of them cash flows at 8% and another one at 6%, I would go towards the one in the better location, better area, better upside that maybe cash flows 5 or 6% instead of the 8%. Does that make sense so far? Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I saw that you said, yeah. Any follow-up questions?
And then kind of going base, I guess you kind of answered that, but like I've been learning about a lot of the real estate stuff like this year. Like I had messaged you on Instagram too. Like I've been listening to your podcast and stuff. I think someone in the comments said it too. Like I kind of feel overwhelmed by the amount of information. I'm trying like really hard to like learn everything. Like anytime I'm not at work, that's what I'm doing, trying to learn everything. Do you recommend just buying a property like you were saying and just like going towards that instead of trying to learn everything? Because at this point it's like it's too hard to try to learn everything all at once.
I love that you're admitting that that's the case. Let me give you, sometimes I start talking, I forget where I was starting. So remind me that the point was to give you specific advice on what you should do. The overall big picture that I want everybody to hear is that it is easy to get into the fun of learning a bunch of stuff, and it tricks you into thinking that you're actually making progress. Okay. The human brain is not good at traveling paths it hasn't traveled before. If you think about everything in life that you have a lot of confidence in, it's usually stuff you've done before. And I see this phenomena happen where I'll hire someone to work as a real estate agent and they used to be a title officer. And a client will say, I'm interested in this house. And the first thing they do is they go search the title history. No one cares. Why are you doing that? But their brain is very familiar with that pathway. And any questions that come up with that stuff, they're like, ooh, I'm on it. But if you got to go actually talk to the human being and like, why do you like the house? Maybe they clam up because they used to work in a cubicle. They don't talk to people. In order to honor that is the way that your brain's going to work, reduce the amount of stuff that you let into your head. You don't have to know everything about real estate investing. In fact, it may be better to know less. Let's say that you're in a situation where you buy one house every year with a 5% down primary residence loan, and it's a triplex, and you live in one unit and you rent out the other two. And then every year you move into the next one, and now you have 3 and you rent them out as short-term rentals. Okay. You will make exponentially more money than the expert that is buying a whole bunch of properties in Indiana. And they say, I have 60 units, and they have constant rehabs going on and tons, like they're spinning their wheels and they're working. They think they're making progress. And then you'll look back and you'll have made like 20 times as much money as they did with knowing less. So I would encourage you actually to not think you're missing out by not learning everything. Just learn what you actually need and get good at that thing that you're doing. And house hacking in a good market, like you are blessed that you live in Southern California because you can use these primary residence loans to buy stuff out there.
Yeah, I was actually gonna buy a duplex and then go out of state, and then but now my other option was thinking what you were saying. But now that you're saying that, yeah, I think that makes better sense for me.
100%. When you get bored with doing what we talked about here, okay, go learn something else. It is fun to learn. But if you just do too much learning, your brain tricks itself into thinking it made progress. And then you get this like dopamine hit, like, wow, I learned how to do this. I learned how to do that. I'm so good. But your bank account isn't going up at all. This is a very, very common tactic that I've seen like fall into stuff. I used to notice this like many different things that I've done. Like in the police world, you'd get cops that would like want to tell these war stories about all this amazing stuff they did. And I'm like, no, dude, you don't do any of that. Okay. Like, you know, a bunch of things, but you never use any of it. It doesn't actually benefit anyone to do this. So I learned that sometimes it's better not to talk about even stuff I'm learning because it tricks my brain into thinking I did it, right? You don't want to talk about it. You want to go be about it. So you're helping us a lot by just admitting that that's a problem you're having. There's a lot of people that needed to hear that.
Yeah, I like made a schedule of like all the things I was gonna learn. I'm like, wait, what am I doing? I was like, I just need to make my first deal and move on, and then next like start saving up money to get the next deal and do that. So thank you so much.
That's it. You got it. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
That girl's going places, folks. You'll see. All right, Felicia. Oh, she's giving Alex some props. You have half the equation. Now you just have to jump. Excited to see where you are 1 year from now. Yep, that's the exact same thing I was thinking. Oh boy, we got more bots in here. I think you guys report them though, and that I love you for that. Thank you. It's hard for me to try to report the bots and answer your questions and think at the same time. Ryan's been waiting for a while. Let's see if he's still there. Ryan, you there? Ryan Shaw.
Hey, I'm here.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going? So my question was related to the BRRRR method. I was wondering if you're still utilizing the BRRRR method during this time. I also know some building divisions are kind of backed up, at least the ones I've talked to, with getting permits for all the renovations. What's the timeline like for getting a permit for doing the BRRRR method, and how do you like control the carrying costs associated with that?
Good question there. All right. And thank you for muting yourself. Appreciate that. This is being recorded. This is going to be released. And be careful how I give you guys advice. You should get permits, obviously. It obviously depends on the stuff you're getting permits for. Okay. So if someone's like doing foundation work, they're having new roof put in, they're getting electrical work done, I will always tell people you need to get permits for that stuff, right? Especially if you're like, well, maybe I won't use a contractor, I'll use a handyman, not for something that significant. What many people don't realize that don't do this for a living like I do is that in like the Bay Area counties, let's just start, for example, with there. Just about any work you do on your house at all requires a permit. You want to change the flooring. You want to change the sink in your kitchen. I don't mean just take out like the actual sink. I mean like the faucet, okay? You want to change the faucet in your bathroom. You're supposed to get a permit for all of that. So none of you have ever lived in a house that was up to code. Get completely up to code, right? Because no one goes to the city and says, I want to change the carpet in my living room, or I want to put in laminate flooring instead of carpet. They're not getting permits. Like paint's like almost even landscaping a lot of the time. The city can't tag you for not having a permit for doing the landscape work. All right. So legally, yes, I have to tell you that you're supposed to get a permit, and you should. However, practically, there's kind of a spectrum of like how the city is actually going to enforce a lot of these things. The permit thing that I've noticed that comes up with clients in general is usually a bigger, like the neighbors reporting the work you're doing than the city actually carrying on their own. Cities don't have a proactive approach. They're not like the police. They're driving around looking for crime. Okay. They probably don't want to have to deal with you. Once the complaint comes in, now they have to get involved. So when it comes to, of course, somebody always asks this permit question. When it comes to the backdrop, the city is going to take a long time because they're looking at this from the perspective of you're just a regular homeowner who wants to change your faucet in your bathroom or wants to move a wall. There's not a sense of urgency to get this done. You're going to wait to start your work until we give you the permit. And you're going to do it on our timeline because that's how the government works. Has anyone here ever had an amazing experience at the DMV? Right?
Yeah, it's pretty horrible.
It's terrible. And that's just because it's the government. I'm not one of those negative people that's a conspiracy theorist. Like, I get why the government's like this because human beings are like this. And when there's no incentive, like you take capitalism out of the equation, you're going to get a different experience. It looks like you're working in a medical facility. If that is a facility that's privately owned, that is for profit, they probably have a different set of standards that is higher than if this was a public hospital in another country that is getting like South America, where they're getting paid the same regardless of how things go. That medical care is going to be different depending on how incentivized the people are. And unfortunately, at least this is just my opinion, most human beings are not incentivized by benevolent reasons. Well, you should do it because you should care. Should just doesn't work for most people. 5% of people may do that. The rest of us are going to ask, what's in it for me? That's why capitalism is good, is it takes the worst parts of human nature and it incentivizes you to control your own sloth, your own greed, and your own selfishness. So if you're going to work with the government, you kind of got to know what you're getting into. You should expect that this is going to be tricky. So I have 3 BRRRRs in California, and I have 2 right now in Florida. And there could be another stuff that I'm just not thinking of right now. I got one going in Malibu that I is a BRRRR also, but we don't actually have to do a huge renovation. It just was such a good deal we got under market that'll be a BRRRR. So I think what you're referring to here is rehab specific BRRRRs. I'm looking for like what an option would be to pull permits for the things that would morally require them, right? You're going to change out your electrical panel. You're going to do something that could affect the integrity of the foundation or the property itself. If you're going to move a wall and put it somewhere else, if you're going to change the flooring, like, I don't know that the city's really going to say, well, you pulled permits for 70% of what you did, but then you went and changed the faucets without telling us, we're going to red tag you, right? I can't tell you that they're not going to care, but I can tell you that in my experience, they're mostly like, okay, your neighbors complain, I got to do something. Like, can you show me that you're making some progress here and that you're applying for permits, right? Oftentimes I'll do like a garage conversion. That's a big thing I look for, is I'm going to take this garage, I'm going to turn it into an ADU type of a thing, because you're getting a lot of bang for the buck. That's a permit situation. I'm going to have to go through the city to get that done. But if we're doing that and then we do some work on the interior of the house, we're doing like a kitchen remodel and I'm putting in quartz countertops instead of the tile that we had, I've never had any of the inspectors be like, what? You didn't ask us if you could change out the cabinets, right? So with that information in mind, do you have a follow-up question for clarity there?
No, that makes perfect sense. It sounds like more things like maybe like more cosmetic and flooring and things like that. They might not care as much, but obviously like safety type things would require a permit.
And stuff that would get noticed. Okay. Again,
Right.
Thank you for muting yourself. That's awesome. I'll give you an example. I want to put this. I think at this point in my career, I value real estate differently than how a newer investor might. Okay. It's somewhat of an amateur take to value your real estate at what it appraised for. That's a very common thing. Like, it's a metric, but when the market crashed in 2010, did whatever it appraised for in 2008, did that stop the market from plummeting whatsoever? Not at all. Okay. And then when prices are going up, whatever the house appraised for 3 years ago is completely irrelevant to what someone's going to pay now. Like, when you do this long enough, you start to become like Neo in the Matrix. Like, how do I bend the spoon? There is no spoon, right? Like, appraised values give a sense of security to the person buying the house. Like, what are they based on? They're literally based on what someone else paid for their house. There's nothing objective about that in any fashion at all. It's just to make you feel good about what you're doing. And I learned this is sort of like Neo says in the Matrix, it's a sense of control or a system of controls. And I don't look at that like a bad thing. The regular person trying to buy a house needs something to feel good about the fact they're spending $700,000. And if this helps them move forward with it, okay, that's fine. But a better objective value or a metric for value to me would be like the rebuild cost. How much would it cost to rebuild a house? I would put much more in my own mind value towards that. And here's what I'm getting at by poking holes in the appraisal. Or another one would be the list price. Okay. Well, it was listed for 700,000. I'm not paying 710. That's overpaying. Like, how long did we hear that? I've been listening, like, pounding my head in the wall from people that are telling me everyone's overpaying for real estate. The market's going to crash. Okay. Well, look who overpaid in 2015. What's their house worth right now? Did they overpay? It's that whole concept of overpaying is so subjective, but it's spoken like it's just an objective, concrete fact. And here's what I'm getting at with this entire way of, I want you guys to look at it differently than how everyone else looks at it, because then you become like Neo in the Matrix and you see the code in the wall and you can do things that other people can't. I would pay more than other people would have valued the property for something that is more unique than the other houses around it in an area where I don't have neighbors. Okay. So a house on a hill with a big lot and there's no one around me, I would pay whatever the objective measurement of that property is. If I had to, I would be happy to pay more for that house than getting a under market value deal on a track home with the other houses all right next to it. Okay. The amateur looks at that and goes, oh, that house is worth 700. I only had to pay 650. I crushed it. Okay. You did, until you want to start doing work. And now the contractors with their hammers are waking up your neighbors and they're calling the city, and you get yourself buried deep into the situation. And now they're angry at you and you're using a short-term rental and they're calling the city to rat you out because the neighbors are being too loud, or like, it's a huge headache for you. Okay. Or you go buy the house that was built in the 1940s instead of 2015, And even though it's older and other people avoid it, it's on a huge lot. It's separated from a bunch of other houses. You have way more privacy. Your guests are coming in and out on that short-term rental. And even if they're loud, there's no one to be angry at. It's a different way of looking at real estate and asking, what is it worth to me, as opposed to what is it worth? And it's hard to separate yourself from like the sheep. Okay. Like the whole, well, that's what it's worth. And I want to tell my friends that I got it for less than what it was appraised for or whatever. Like it's easy to fall into that. Right. But there's deals that you might pay over the appraised price and it has a 25% ROI, and another deal that you paid less than the appraised price has a 3% ROI and they appreciate at the same rate. Okay. So you overpaid and got a way better property than the person that underpaid, which you never would have saw the angle if you didn't look at it. So all of that is a very long-winded way of saying, when you're looking for these properties to BRRRR, take into consideration how many houses are around them. Help a little bit?
Gotcha. I appreciate that, David.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate you. Daniel Kim says, can we do the live chat again? This was helpful. I'm kind of considering making this a weekly thing. I don't know if I'll be able to keep up with that for a long time. But I would like to. I don't know if they'll be this long every single time. And I think I need to come up with a better system to make sure that we stay on topic to what we're here to talk about, because people get all excited. They just want to ask whatever questions on their mind rather than what the topic was. Maybe I'll talk a little bit longer about stuff that's going on. But yeah, like this is a cool way that we can connect. It's a way that people who have hangups with real estate in general get a chance to get those addressed. And it's a way for me to tell you guys what I have going on. So I'm sure a lot of you guys probably didn't realize that I actually have a text letter. But if you want to know what's happening in my life and you're not getting that text letter, like you wouldn't know that I have a retreat coming up if you want to book that and visit my property in Scottsdale and spend 3 days learning directly from me about what I'm buying and how I bought it, and like script and objection ways that I handle different objections, or what I target when it comes to buying property, how I choose the market, the kind of stuff we're talking about here. So I put that in the comments as well. If you guys want to go to dgtlive.com/text letter, you can see like what new book I'm working on, where I'll be speaking, what videos I'm watching, what I see happening in the economy. I don't think enough real estate investors pay attention to macroeconomic factors. I think it's like I said earlier, everyone gets so excited by show me this minute detail that gives me an advantage over everyone else. And they get so caught up in the tiny weeds and they lose sight of the whole forest where they want to be. So I would highly encourage you guys to get that. Go to there to dgtlive.com/text letter. DGT Live is kind of like the blog that I have where we publish a lot of stuff that's in the text letter, and just see what I have going on. So you know where I'll be visiting, where I'll be speaking, if I'm putting a meetup together. I always get people afterwards that they see the meetup on my social media and they, oh, how come I didn't know about it? Like, because you're not following along with what I'm doing. They don't know that I'm buying $15 million worth of real estate right now. There's a lot of people that are, oh, he's just an agent. Of course, he's telling people to buy. No, I'm going all in hardcore on very specific properties. And I think I have over $1 million in equity from day one. If we're using, like I said, I don't value the appraised values, but if you went by that, over the 15 million that I put in contract, it's got over $1 million in equity that I will be walking into, because I'm targeting properties that everybody else is like not thinking this is where the deal would be. Daniel Kim said, how do I ask a question? Daniel, what is your question? And if it's good, I'll see if I can bring you in. In the meantime, we're going to go to Michael D. Michael, how's it going?
Good afternoon, sir. How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
All right. Pretty good. It's just hot as hell in Glendale, California.
It's hot up here in Northern California too, but I got the AC cranking in my office, so I'm actually okay right now.
Yeah, I'm doing the same. My phone is overheating while it's charging, so I have to sit in front of the AC machine. So let me ask I have two questions. The first being, I'm a first-time flipper. My first property is actually on the market. I was going by the 70% rule of what to spend and the cost to fix it up versus what I think I could sell it for. Interest rates, of course, as you know, went up. Value went down. Going forward, what should I kind of try to be looking at as a rule of thumb for percentages doing this?
Oh, Okay. This might be a little bit longer to answer than what you were hoping for. I think the rules of thumb and the percentage approach to writing offers, all of that sort of like, how do I want to analyze the property? It makes a lot more sense when there's a lot of properties to try to sift through. Okay. So when those things came to light was sort of the 2010 through 2015 era
Mhm.
where houses were selling again, but not very quickly. So it was like this treasure hunt where you were sifting through all the opportunity. You're trying to find the best bang for your buck. All right.
Mhm.
Those strategies make a lot of sense because they save you time. Like if it doesn't work for this, don't even look at it. I don't know that we're in that environment at the majority of the markets that you want to be buying in, or at minimum that I'm buying in. Okay.
Mhm.
Like I'm not looking through the trash pile trying to find the shiniest piece of trash. I'm still trying to be in the best market, the best homes, the best neighborhoods, the long term. This is where I'm going to do really well. So a tool that allows me to sift through all my options isn't really beneficial because I don't have a lot of options. All right. So
Mhm.
what area are you looking to buy in right now?
The Denver County area, that property that I own right now is in Elizabeth, Colorado. So it's a fringe area. It's middle higher income. We have it listed for 760. I picked it up for the mid 500s.
Okay, so you're flipping then?
Yeah, flipping, taking the profit, and want to roll it into rentals.
Are you seeing enough opportunities that you need to sift through a whole bunch of potential properties with really big upside?
Well, when I first looked, yeah, because a lot of people were trying to do the same thing, so it was a little hard to find something to start with. Now it seems like more is becoming available, but I'm just worried moving forward that I don't kind of, hurt myself, bend over and take it while I'm trying to make some money at this.
I don't know that metric though is going to stop you from getting hurt, right? Like when you're running your numbers, you have a pretty good understanding that I bought for this, my rehab is going to be this, it should be worth this, right?
Yeah.
The 70% of ARV, it basically helps eliminate any of the properties that aren't worth looking at. It's
Okay.
not going to actually keep you safe. What's going to keep you safe is not writing the offer or not closing unless your ARV is enough to cover how much you put in.
Okay.
Okay. So instead of taking the approach of, well, how should I be running this? I would start with like avoiding the things that will get you hurt. So the first thing that would get you hurt is not being able to sell the home when you're done with the rehab. Fair?
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
not really been an issue in the last 10 years. No one had to really think about that. The
Yeah.
only ways that flippers got hurt was your rehab going over, which is still a concern. We'll talk about that next.
Yeah.
But where do you think the price points are with homes that are sitting and they're not selling?
I think we're pretty competitive for that size of the house right now. I have a pretty good realtor and a mentor that kind of looked everything over, and they both pretty much agreed on that.
Okay.
For that area, I probably won't be doing that specific spot just because it's kind of too far out. I'm going to try and get something closer to Denver to try and get more traffic when I do sell it. But the price point is pretty much what I'm trying to stay in, trying to pick something up that I can resell for that, 500 to 800 mark, that middle income, a little
That's
easier
what
to
I
sell.
was asking. That's exactly what I'm getting at. There's a point in every market where you have starter homes.
Mhm.
I haven't never put this in a book. I've never talked about it, but it's a big component of how I approach real estate. I can't give you a price because every market, like $1 million home in Malibu is nothing, right? But $1 million
Yeah.
home in Gary, Indiana could be built on a lake.
Huge.
Right. So there is a price in every market where you get starter homes. And someday I'm actually going to do some research as to figure out, like, you could probably figure out by the median income of the area what percentage of them make this much money and then would fall into the starter homes versus the step up home versus the luxury home. That's the three classifications I tend to look at. So everybody wants a starter home. Investors want to buy those. First time homeowners want to buy those. Frugal people that don't want to spend a lot on their real estate. Everybody wants the starter homes. They will always have the most demand. And the majority of people that are looking, the buyer pool, there's more of them in the starter. Everybody, if you qualify for $1 million, you also qualify for 400,000. Okay. But if you qualify for 400,000, you don't qualify for $1 million. So you've got it's like at a pyramid, like the base is strongest at the starter home. Then you go up and you're in the step up homes. These would require more money than someone can actually realistically save and go buy. Okay. So
Okay.
like in general, an $800,000 house, if you got to put 20% down on that thing, that's 160 grand. Most people don't save $160,000 unless they have 10, 20 years of time. Okay.
Mhm.
So in order to buy what I call the step up houses, you got to be selling a starter home that you've got some equity in.
Okay.
That's why I call them step up houses. And then the top tier is luxury. This is either you make enough money that your house price doesn't really matter to you a whole lot, or you're selling several starter homes or several step up homes and you're getting into the luxury space. Okay. There will always be less buyers in the luxury space.
Mhm.
And at the same time, they're luxury. They're not necessary. You don't have to buy one of those. Okay. So let's take like the slowdown that we're having recently, we know is based on interest rate hikes.
Yeah. That's
If you-
what's hurting me right now.
That's exactly right. Because you said your house is around 700,000-800,000 or something, right?
Yeah.
The only mistake that I don't know what time you bought. You might not know it was a mistake because you could have got the deal before rates went up. You might have got caught.
I did.
There you go. Right. Like that is something you can't control and you can't beat yourself up about it because no one could have known that was going to happen. But the point is that's the soft spot in the market when rates go up. In fact, we can actually probably have the conversation now that I was going to have earlier with someone, and I'll run you through why that is. Coincidentally, that's the properties I'm targeting, right? I'm not you personally. I'm looking for the guy like you who's got this thing listed for 800,000, but on the market 70 days, your hard money is hammering you and you just got to break even or get out from under it at all. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to get it at the great deal. Okay. So when the market is shaky like this, instead of relying on a 70% of ARV rule, because your ARV is what changed. You could have hit all your numbers and then the bottom dropped out of your ARV when rates went up. That's where you got screwed. Okay.
Yeah.
You would have been better off looking for a deal that didn't have quite as much meat on the bone, but was a starter home. That thing would still be selling right now. Okay. Luxury homes, when you bought it, made sense because the market was red hot and the margins are bigger. And that's when I would be playing in that space. I was flipping some of those high expensive homes. I was like making moves in that area when the market was really strong. But when the bottom dropped out, I'm going hard. I'm just ignoring the starter homes at this point. Everyone else is still chasing them. Okay. Like someone needs a place to live. It doesn't matter if interest rates are 9%, 10%. They have to buy that starter home and there's still competition. No one has to buy a luxury home. Okay. So like that's where I'm seeing the soft spots in the market. And let me kind of like run you through the numbers of why this is so impactful. What would a starter home in the Denver market? What's like the price range of those?
There's such a wide range. I mean, for the area that I'm looking at, it's just a starter, smaller home, probably be in the mid 500s.
There we go. So let's take a $500,000 house, and let's do a 20% down payment, interest rate of 4%. Okay, their total monthly payment would be principal and interest, not tax and insurance, would be $1,910 a month. Seems ridiculous. You could get a $500,000 house for only $1,910. That's what, because rates are low. Okay. Let's say that same home rates jump to 8%. It's going to go to $2,935. Now that is significant. However, it's also only $1,000. So if you were barely able to afford $1,900, you can't buy that house at 8%. But what if you're one of those step up home people that still just doesn't want to spend as much money? You're going to buy a frugal house. That's not a problem for you. It's only $1,000 a month, right? It's not that hard to make $1,000. I don't want me to be disparaging of people that can't afford it, but because I said many people buy starter homes, maybe real estate investors as well, they can stomach that extra $1,000. If it's going to cash flow, they're all good. Now let's take this exact same approach and let's talk about a $2 million house. Same thing, 20% down, 4% interest on a $2 million house with 20% down. Your principal and interest is $76.39. You bump that up to 8%. That becomes $11,740. Okay. That's let's 8,030, about $3,500 difference. Okay. It's pretty significant. And you're not, if you think that rates are going to come back down and you didn't have to go buy a luxury house, you're not super excited right now to go in there and your payment went from $7,600 to almost $12,000. That's enough to make everyone ho. Okay. I don't want anything to do with that. that starter home might slow me down, but I'll still go buy that thing if it was 2,900 instead of 1,900, especially if I got to reinvest my money or I need a place to live. It's not happening in the luxury space. And what I'm getting at is that starter homes are not sensitive to rate hikes nearly as much as step-up homes and especially luxury. Luxury homes are very, very, very sensitive. And that's where you're seeing the days on market go really high. That's where you're seeing a lot of opportunity. So my advice to you, instead of just saying, well, maybe I need to be at 60% of ARV instead of 70, the factor that you can control would be the price you go in at, but the factor you can't control is the ARV. So if you do everything right with what you're controlling and the bottom drops out on you because the ARV goes down, doesn't matter if you got it right. So focus on the part that will keep you safe. And that's not going to be the formula that you're using. Get into the part of the market that's bedrock, the bottom of the pyramid, the strongest base, and make smaller margins on safer deals. That makes sense.
Gotcha. Cool.
All right.
Thank you very much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Michael. Boy, this is my first time doing one of these lives, and these bots are everywhere, man. It's like a rash. It just keeps coming back. I appreciate you guys reporting them. All right, let's do a couple more of these. I think Daniel Kim had a good question here. As a newer investor, how do you develop that macro mindset of the real estate market? As you mentioned, instead of focusing on the minutia, how did you expedite that process? Well, Daniel, the first piece is I probably didn't expedite that process. I had to go through the same learning curve. I didn't have a David Green that was telling me I needed to be thinking differently. Okay. I didn't really have mentors. So that was a piece of it. That's why I kind of talk about this stuff more often, because hearing it over and over and over will help you to get past it. And then also part of it was the facts that like smacked me in the face that I had. It was hard not to confront them when they hit you. So here was, I remember I've had several, I don't know if epiphany is the right word, but like a paradigm shifts over my investing career. The first one I can remember was that I started buying in end of 2009. The market had been crashing. And I was looking at every deal I bought like everyone else does. It's got a cash flow. Cash flow is the only reason I'm buying. Cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. Appreciation. You never know. It might go down even more. Okay. And so I bought a house a year for the first 4 years or so. 2013 came and the market turned around faster than I ever could have imagined. It just went from the houses listed for 200,000. I would call the bank and say, would you take 150? To houses listed at 200,000, 6 offers sold for 230. It was like over 1 month, like springtime hit. All the people that went through a short sale in 2010 now were eligible to get a loan. And they're like, oh, this is a third of what I paid for the house when I lost it. And it's a 30-year fixed rate that's lower than what I had before. And I'm getting the Obama credit, $7,500. Heck yeah, I'm buying houses. And they just scooped up everything. And then there was also a phenomenon I learned that when prices dropped low enough, like I didn't know how this worked. I thought they just keep going down. I'm like, well, eventually I could buy a house for $1. I'll just wait. I didn't realize that there's a certain point where investors say, "Ooh, this makes a lot of money for me," and then they jump in and they start soaking up the inventory. So they never hit the true bottom that you would think, because there's someone else where that house is worth more to them than it would be to the person in my position. So real estate became so expensive so quick, I couldn't buy it. It just didn't cash flow anymore. And I spent about a year sulking. I just felt sorry for myself. Well, this sucks. I should have bought more houses. It's too late. And then I eventually watched a lady on the news, and she was a real estate agent in Phoenix, and she was talking about how much inventory they have and they're not selling and cash flow is really strong. And I was like, ooh, what is this? What is this Arizona real estate you speak of? This is interesting. And I didn't know long distance investing was risky. So I contacted her. I flew out there. I went and looked at houses. That was the beginning of me buying out of state when nobody else was, that I knew of at least, was doing that. That's how I put together the systems that were in long distance investing. But when I started buying in Arizona, I had cash flow again. So I wasn't feeling sorry for myself. That's why I'm telling that story. Bought a little bit in Arizona. Prices got to be too high out there to cash flow. Had the same problem. And I just moved. I was like, this is the locust pattern that I talk about. I moved into North Florida and I started buying out in Jacksonville. Well, when I was buying in Jacksonville, I realized I had become a millionaire and didn't know it. I literally did not know what net worth meant or how to track it. It's not complicated, but no one had ever talked about it. I didn't look at equity in my properties. I didn't measure it because I didn't think it mattered. I only looked at cash flow. So when my houses became more expensive, I thought that was bad. And then I realized that I was a millionaire and had been one for a while and had no clue. That was like a crazy moment for me. That was definitely a paradigm shift. I was walking around the Powell Street BART station in San Francisco, and the words, I'm a millionaire, I'm a millionaire, just kept going through my head. Like something changed inside me. I didn't get a big ego. It was more, I saw a millionaire as you've done something really well. You've been very successful. And I was confused that I had been that way for a long time, but didn't know it. I can't think of a good analogy off the top of my head. I mean, it would be like if you just never took off your shirt and then one day you had a six pack. You're like, I've had a six pack this whole time and I didn't realize that. Like I could have been a fitness model and I didn't know it. That was kind of how that felt. And then I bought a bunch of property in Florida. And one day I was doing the podcast and I was thinking like, I wonder how much equity I'd have to get before I caught my cash flow in Florida. And I went and looked at it and I realized that my first 5 California properties had made significantly more than all 25 of the Florida properties that I had bought. And that was another like, how is that possible that these 5 have outperformed the Florida portfolio? And then not only did the California properties appreciate in value way more, their cash flow goes up too. Like you forget that appreciation applies to rent. Okay, so those properties that I bought in my fourplex in California that were, when I bought it, were $700 a month, and I bumped it up to $800, and I was like, I've added $400. That's like a 20% increase. I'm so good at this. Now it's like $1,800 or $1,900 a month that we rent that thing out for. Okay, it almost didn't matter what the numbers were when I bought it compared to what it's doing now. I had a single family home that I bought back then, $1,100 for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. That's like $2,600 a month right now. Okay. This is over a 8-year period. That's wild. You can't compare that to the stuff I bought in Florida that was renting for $1,000 and 5 years later it's renting for $1,125 or something. Like it's gone up some, but nothing compared to what California did. And it was my first sort of hammer to the face that looking at what something cash flows on a spreadsheet makes me feel smart, makes me feel safe. When I'm comparing a bunch of other properties, the spreadsheet makes the decision pretty easy. Well, if I buy this one, my ROI is this. If I buy this one, my ROI is that. This is clearly the better property. But when I looked at it over a long period of time, that spreadsheet lied to me. It didn't tell me how you actually build wealth in real estate. And then I started thinking about the big players, the people that were like billionaires with real estate or 100 million instead of 1 million, like my net worth was. And they didn't talk about cash flow the way that I thought about cash flow. I was like, I got to get enough cash flow to make more than my job so I can leave it. I need to get enough cash flow to be rich. And you never get there. It's just cash flow is wildly independent. The same way that you can't bank on appreciation, you learn you can't really bank on cash flow either because things break constantly. So once I saw the truth, it was like in the Matrix. This is my second Matrix analogy when Neo takes the red pill and he like realizes he's in the Matrix. You can't unsee it. You can't not realize the truth once it hits you. I'd been living in that blue pill world for a very long time, thinking that cash flow was going to make me rich. And then I realized, oh, that is not the case at all. And since then, I've found ways to stomach that. Like now what I'll do is I will force equity and I will allow market appreciation and I'll do things in my favor I don't just like speculate on market appreciation, but I do buy in areas where it is reasonable to believe they will appreciate faster and more consistently than other areas. And then I add equity to the property through buying it at the right price and doing a rehab, like the stuff I kind of talk about in the Burr book, and that I'll be teaching in Scottsdale. Because it's easier to create equity than cash flow. You can't really create cash flow in most cases unless you just let rents appreciate. They have to do it on their own. It's not something that you can control. But you can control equity in a lot of cases. And it's funny because everyone talks about the opposite because they just remember what it was like when the market crashed and their equity disappeared. And so in that case, yeah, cash flow is much more valuable. But in most cases, when you're in a normal market, equity is something you can control more. So I started focusing on creating equity and then exchanging that into cash flow. Okay. I could go build $1 million in equity a lot easier than $1 million in cash flow. And then I would take that equity and I would 1031 into or sell and or refinance or something and go give it to a syndication who got me a 18% return. And my 18% return on that $1 million was $180,000 a year. I don't know anyone that's going to build up $180,000 a year of cash flow as quickly as I was able to build up the $1 million of equity that I turned into 180,000. That led me to thinking about macro stuff, bigger picture, right? Worrying about the paint color, worrying about what can I do to save money on the CRM that I'm using. It just was dwarfed in comparison to the fundamentals of real estate where you're adding value, where big returns come your way without taking big risk. So that's what changed for me. You're asking, how do you get out of that minutia? The first part is dealing with the uncomfortable truth that you are not going to change your life building cash flow, but that is the dream you've probably been sold. And the reason that I think that is because if I'm a guru and I want you to take my course, I want you to listen to me on YouTube, I want to hold your attention somewhere. Like I said, I can make a lot more money selling people onto the little details because that's like the minutia is what everyone wants. You're exactly right. If I want that, I just tell you cash flow. I just hold my little watch, right? You're getting sleepy. Cash flow. You'll finally get that girlfriend you always wanted. You can finally tell your boss to shove it. You hate that commute, don't you? You can get out of it. You can be on a boat with the girls in the bikinis. Everything in life you didn't like, you could fix if you just get enough cash flow and you get hypnotized. And then the turnkey company says, buy my house in Turnkey USA that never goes up in value and always has things break and you lose all your cash flow every single time. But they sucked you in with that dream of cash flow. So I recognize that it is awkward for me to be a real estate educator telling you guys you're not going to get rich from chasing cash flow. I also hope you hear me saying cash flow is not bad. And I'm not telling you to not look at it. I'm saying don't look at it for the purpose that you're looking at it for. It serves a purpose. In my mind, it's a defensive metric. Cash flow helps me play defense. How do you make money in real estate? Buy the best area, buy the most unique property, and wait a really long time. That's all I'm doing. It's not what everyone thinks. Now, do I do things to add icing on the cake? Yes. Okay. I've got negotiation strategies that I use to buy the property under market value. That's like I told you guys, I got $15 million of real estate I'm closing on. There's over $1 million in equity in that. That's stuff I teach people for negotiating. 5% of the game, 95% of the game is where the property is located. I don't lie to myself about how I'm so great because I got it under market value. It's going to go up more than that $1 million over a 5-year period. So much that I could have paid market value and I would have done just fine. Do I look for value at opportunity? Hell yeah. I love like space that hasn't been included in the house. I love opportunity that other people don't see. Again, 5% of the game, 10% of the game, maybe. Doing that on properties in the wrong areas isn't going to get you anywhere. Okay. So there are things that I do outside of just the location, but they're just not worth mentioning compared to how important buying in the right area is, or buying something at all and paying that loan off over a long period of time. Cash flow is just allows time to do its thing. If it cash flows, you won't lose it. And that's all you're really trying to do. You're trying to buy the best real estate you can in the best area you can, manage it as best as you can, and let time do all the work. Like no one else is saying this, and it drives me nuts. I'm not as smart as you guys probably think. A lot of people are calling me the GOAT on Instagram before we get into this. I appreciate that. Don't stop. I like it. Keep calling me the GOAT. I'm just being honest with you guys. I took advantage of inflation. The government printed way more money than they should have, and I saw it happening, and I realized it's all going to flow to real estate, and I bought more real estate when everybody else was scared to buy it, and I get to look like the GOAT. Am I the GOAT? No. Right? The rising tide lifts all ships. Quantitative easing is what made this happen, not me being smarter than everyone else. So I know I've been going on for a while here. I just want to let you know, Daniel, who's asking this question, you're not going to get rich by negotiating an extra $2,000 off of the inspection based on a situation with the roof. Does that make real estate more fun? Yeah. Should you do it? Yeah. I'm not saying leave money on the table. Don't get caught up thinking about that, like letting that ruin your deal. Nobody that bought a house 30 years ago remembers what they negotiated off of the inspection contingency. They don't. There's not a human being alive that can even tell you what it said, because they bought that house 30 years ago for 60,000 and now it's worth 480,000, and it doesn't matter how things went down, right? And not only has it gone up from 60 to 480, but they paid off that $60,000 loan. And if they were smart, they refinanced it several times and bought more cash flowing real estate and paid that off, and they turned it into several $1 million of equity, letting inflation do all the work. Everything I just said should get you excited, and that's all big picture stuff. It's tools like refinancing. It's tools like using the debt of the bank. It's tools like buying in the right area. It's tools like managing your property the best way, building systems so that you can handle it. Not, I fix my own fence boards to try to save money. So I don't know. That was a long rant that I just went on there, but I hope that gives you a little bit of confidence. We've been going for a while here. Let's see. Relaxing Music Lounge says, "Hi David, I own buy and hold units in SoCal that I've appreciated significantly. How to use the equity to keep scaling, on track to buy one property every 2 years with savings." This is a good question. The problem is that you got the golden handcuffs of that 3% interest rate on your loans, and you're going to have to give that up. So a few ways you could look at it. You got the HELOC option we talked about earlier. You can tap into some equity there. That's going to be your riskiest option. You can refinance and pull money out and lose that 3% rate. If you're going to do that, it's better than not doing anything. I would say that. Like, the overall, you're still going to make way more money buying more real estate, regardless of what the market does in the short term. But make sure that the return you get is more than the difference you're going to pay in the higher rate. So if you go from 3% to 6%, see how much money that's going to add to your mortgage, which means you're losing it from your cash flow, and make sure whatever you go buy is going to cash flow you more than whatever the difference is. So if your mortgage goes up $800 because you pull out this money, make sure whatever you buy cash flows more than $800, and you're sort of in a net win situation to you. The other thing is that you could borrow money from other people. I think that's even riskier than the HELOC option or the refinance. So I probably wouldn't lean you in that direction until you had done this a little bit more. And then my favorite option is to figure out how to make more money and save more money so that it doesn't take 2 years to save it up. Another one would be keep house hacking. It's a whole lot easier to save 5% than 20%. In fact, if my math is right, it should take you 1/4 of the time. So there are people that get comfortable, like, I love my house, I have to live in it, I never would want a house hack. Okay, well, I hope you love not being a millionaire as fast as someone else, because I think you're better off to be a little bit uncomfortable for a couple years and house hack, and then buy whatever house you want, let all your other houses pay for it later. Like, that's just, when I hear people say, I don't want a house hack because I love my house. Do you love it enough to rob your future of how much you could be getting if you house hacked? And this doesn't mean you got to rent out the bedrooms either. You can house hack and live in a unit that other people don't live in, that's just smaller, buying the right type of property. So hope that helps you there. Oh boy, you got a lot of questions there. Lisa, any questions on a good 1031 exchange company? Yeah, I can connect you with the one that I'm using. Happy to do that if you reach out to me, or if you reach out to Stacy or any of the other agents or loan officers on my team, they'll get in touch with me, and we'll get you connected that way too. If you guys didn't know about the One Brokerage, let me take a minute to explain that to you. That's a mortgage company that I own. It's doing amazing. So if you guys are looking to get your property financed, I don't see any reason you wouldn't come to us and just let us do this. Not only are you dealing with somebody that works in my company, so that you know that they've been vetted in some way. Like, if you guys reach out to Stacy, you're going to love her. She's been vetted. Okay. You also are getting access to the people that do my loans. So when I run into a problem and the lender says he can't buy a house because he has too many houses, I mean, imagine if you were in my situation and they asked for 50 different bank statements, insurance binders, property tax information, property leases. Like, it's insane to try to get all that information together to send to a lender. So we just find loans where they don't ask that question. They look at the income from the property, stuff like that. You guys get access to all the same stuff I'm using if you use the teams that do my stuff, which is why I made them available to you. So you can email us. I'll put the email in here. If you just have a question, you can go to questions@theonebrokerage.com. And if you actually want to apply to get a loan, or you're serious about wanting to do something there, you can go to intake at theonebrokerage.com. We try to keep the intake email for people that are actually like going to take action, so that our loan officers don't get bogged down just answering questions that people would have. So definitely check those out. All right. Somebody might have asked a question that caught my attention. Caden says, what's the best way to reach out to you? It depends what your question is, Caden. If you're just wanting something like, what should I do with my own money? Go to biggerpockets.com/David. You can submit your questions there. I'll answer them on the podcast. If it's like you're trying to bring me business, you're trying to do a loan with us, you want to get connected to one of my agents, you want to join my mastermind, you want to go to the retreat I'm putting together, whatever that would be, you could either email me, or you could email info@davidgreen24. That's the David Green team email that we use. And just make sure, don't say I want to talk to David. Say I want information about this thing. I want to do this, or I'd like to talk to David about something like this. My friend has a house they want to sell. Anything like that. That would be the best place to get a hold of me. All right, let's take a couple more questions. I'll let you guys get to your Friday night. Juan Carlos has been patiently waiting for a very long time. He's like, oh, crap. I was just getting in the middle of ordering something on DoorDash, and now I got to show up and answer this question.
Thank you so much for taking the call. I have a question. I have around 40 properties for rent already. All of them, they are working fine, cash flowing and everything. And when I tried to do, I already refinanced all the properties. And of course, when I was refinancing, I was acquiring more and more. And then, of course, the money is going down. So now I was thinking to go with brokers or with the banks and see if I can take at least 10,000 for each property, not too much. Try to negotiate the closing costs, because I send another property for a broker, and this broker send me the refinance, and the numbers kind of work, but the closing cost, it was too high. It was like a 20,000 for each one, so it's not worth it.
Are these lower priced homes?
Yes, they are around 100,000 to 200,000.
And so that's a huge chunk of the actual property's value, right?
Exactly.
How do you think I knew that they were lower priced homes?
I don't know, but they are been increasing the last 2 years a lot. And when I refinance, I take a lot of.
So they've increased a lot to get to $100,000 value?
Yeah, and several properties together, yes, more than that. And they've been increasing like at 30,000 or 40,000 or each one.
Every year?
No, the last 2 years.
Okay. That's still not bad if they went up. So what did you buy them at?
In Tyler, Texas. I'm in Tyler, Texas, actually.
No, but sorry, what price did you pay for most of these?
Around the hundreds. 89, 90, 100, 120 right now.
Okay, I misunderstood. I thought you were saying they are worth 100,000 right now.
No. They're above 150, between 140 to 170 average.
Okay, so the average house is between 140 and 170. How much did you pay for that average house?
I refinanced it twice already. And so, for example, let me give you one example. One, it was 120. I did the down payment in 2021. And now the loan is 98, for example. Now there is rented for 1,400. And then the cash flow is like a 600. So I was, okay, let me take 10K for that property, for example. So the loan doesn't go too high, and probably the cash flow will be 500, something like that. But when they bring me the offer, it was like a 20,000 in closing costs. So it was like, it's not worth it. I prefer to stay there where I am. So I have like 15 properties like that. So I was looking for another banks in negotiate, probably charge me 5,000 or 6,000, something that is win to win. But if they are going to charge something like that, it's not worth it.
Well, every broker does that, because they get, and that's another. I knew that you were in lower priced homes because you said you have 40 of them, right? Like rarely people do they scale to 40 houses in San Diego, right? The other piece was that I knew that your closing costs, the $20,000 isn't bad if it's a $4 million house, but when it's $100,000, $200,000 house, that is impossible. You can't make it work.
Exactly.
The brokers get paid as a percentage of the total money that that they're lending to you for the refinance, and they're getting paid by the lender who is bringing the money, not by you. That means they have to charge higher closing costs to be worth their time to put the whole thing together. And that's why these lower priced homes, like, you don't expect to run into these problems when you first get into it. And a lot of the tools that we teach you, like the cash out refinance to go buy more properties, or like stuff like that, doesn't work as good at the lower priced homes. It just makes everything hard. Everything's tight. Everything's close, right? On a property like I just bought that one, I think I told you about, with a partner in Malibu. If I can remember the numbers on that, I think we got it at 3.4, and the ARV based on the next door house with the same floor plan selling was like 4.5 million or something. It was like really good, right?
Yes.
When we go to refinance that, the closing costs like probably don't matter. Now I'll still look at them because I don't like to waste money. But as far as how do I make this work, they could be 20,000, they could be 50,000. It's all going to work. Okay. So you didn't ask me this question, but here's what I would advise you to do anyways.
All right.
When the market gets hotter and the demand for cash flow, like if rates drop again, because they're going to drop at some point, you're going to get a lot of thirsty investors that want cash flowing properties like what you have. When the market's hot, everybody is wanting cash flow really bad. That's the time to sell. I could put you in touch with someone that could sell these to a hedge fund for more than market value. That's what I did. Is I found a hedge fund and they paid way more money than somebody else was going to pay. Right.
Okay.
Consider doing that. If you don't do that, sell them in some fashion. 1031 into an area with less houses, less headaches, higher upside, higher appreciating rents, and a value add opportunity. So my guess is you've got these properties worth as much as they're going to be worth. Like you've maxed them out. Okay. The time is now to sell that to someone that has more money and less time. Okay. When you bought them, you had less money and more time. Is that fair? That's how you got them worth a lot. Okay. You changed that. You had less money and more time. You did a great job bringing up their value. Now go sell it to somebody who's in the opposite position as you. They're going to pay over market price because there's no work. They're just buying a cash flow stream. This is a hedge fund that just wants to grab something, throw it in there. They don't know how to manage properties like you do. Take your capital, reinvest it into something else where you can have less money but have more time.
Okay.
Right? Get into great markets and get a house that needs some work. Get a house that isn't being used as a short-term rental and make it worth more. And you're going to see that the cash flows that you have now that you think are really good, you'll probably exceed those with less work if you get into more efficient market. And then over a 5-year period of time, you're going to watch rents that consistently grow. Like, let's say that where you are right now, our rent's growing maybe like 5 or 10% a year.
Yes.
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
in the most.
Okay, so let's say that it's 10% because that's an easy number for me to do math.
Okay.
And let's say, I think you said they're renting for like $1,000 a month or so, a little bit more than that. So let's put it all the way up at $15,000 a year. Okay, that means your rents go up every year by $1,500 in a best case scenario. Okay, now let's say that you sell those homes and you go buy something, a vacation rental that makes $90,000. Let's make it $100,000 because that's just an easier number to do. Okay. Rents go up by 10%. You just made $10,000 a year instead of $1,500. And it's one property. Okay. You can sell a lot of those, buy a smaller percentage of these ones. And if you sold your whole portfolio for 5 of these like nicer short-term rentals, and then you got the 10% increase in rents, that's $50,000 a year that you just added to your cash flow. Okay. That's what I mean by the value add. It doesn't have to be the equity of the property, although that's nice. It can also just be valuing the cash flow. And then you're going to own those for 5 years, and they're going to get a ton of equity. And there's going to be some freaking company at that point that wants to buy short-term rentals from people. You're going to see these hedge funds that get into that space. Like BlackRock's going to come up with some division of vacation rentals, or Expedia is going to be bought out by some big private equity firm, and they're going to be trying to buy short-term rentals from mom and pop people. And if you want, you sell to them and you make $1 million or $1.5 million in equity. And then you go maybe more than that, right? Now you go invest that money into something. And when it goes up by 10%, you increase your cash flows by $200,000 a year. Okay. I'm only saying this because I wish someone had told me this first. I was like, I worked so hard and I got my properties going and now I just want to enjoy it. And I like never moved anywhere. I'd have been way better off I got these properties so great. Now's the time to sell it to someone else who's going to overpay and then put that money into the next thing, do my work again, add the value, cash out bigger. And every time you cash out, you should watch your cash flows exponentially increasing.
All right. Okay.
Okay. I wish I could give you better advice about the broker thing. I'm happy to connect you with one of our loan officers to see if we can do better. Maybe we can, but we're going to be in the same boat where the lender's like $100,000 loan. Yeah, I don't really want, I got to do so many of these. That's so much work. The closing costs are going to be this high because we got to do all the work to deploy very little capital. They'd rather do the same work on a $2 million loan one time than have to do like $100,000 loans and do 20 times as much work.
Okay. I see. All right.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Reach out to me if you want me to connect you with my loan team or the hedge fund that's buying, and you can look at your
hedge funds. I think I'm interested in that.
Okay. Also, if you're in my mastermind, we talk about this kind of stuff all the time. So you can check out davidgreenmastermind.com. The price will be going up on that pretty soon. It's still ridiculously low, and anyone who gets in is going to be grandfathered in at that price.
All right.
Thanks, Juan Carlos.
Thank you so much.
All right, Rebecca, you are going to be our last caller for the evening. Thank you for patiently waiting. It looks like you've been waiting to go to bed.
I am ready. I'm a nurse by W-2, and I'm saying hello from Northwest Arkansas. I'm actually a student of Henry Washington. So,
right on.
Yeah. My question is, I have a primary home that I am house hacking, and I'm trying to figure out my next move. I have a FHA loan with a ridiculously low 2.375 percentage rate. And I'm not sure what to do as far as my next leap pad. I also have a cabin in Branson, Missouri that I am rehabbing to put on short-term rental. So I kind of feel like I know what I'm doing with that, but I'm not sure my next move with my primary home. Should I look at a HELOC for an ADU on this property, or should I pull back, maybe wait a little longer than I had anticipated and try and do a small multifamily? I'm not sure what the direction would be.
Is the problem with the FHA just the rate, or is it also you wanted to use the FHA to buy another house, but then you'd lose the 2.375 if you did?
Yeah, because I had planned on refining this house, taking the FHA with me to the duplex. Maybe that's still the best move. I don't know.
Well, what if you can get a 5%? No, because it's a duplex. Those conventional loans want more than 5% now. So that would work on a single family home. It might work on a duplex. I'm not 100% familiar with those loan guidelines right now. But if you want to buy small multifamily, those are not, they won't let you use 5% down for most of them. Have you talked to a loan officer about that yet?
Not yet.
Okay. I'll connect you with one of our guys. That would be the ideal option. If you can put 5% down on a duplex, it's not a whole lot different than 3.5% down as an FHA loan. So you could keep your FHA loan and just put another low down payment on their next property. If you can't, then you're now looking at having to buy a single family house, which isn't the end of the world. Okay. I know a lot of people don't like this. I just do it anyways. I like buying single family homes that have floor plans that could easily convert it to function as a multifamily, right? Like, I don't know what you said you're in Northwest Arkansas. Like in California, they've outlawed rules that stop you from adding ADUs. So that becomes much easier to convert part of your house and then rent it out. I would look for something like a lot of houses built on hills have like basements that can easily be converted into additional units, or separate entrances. So the first floor and the second floor, you can access it both from the outside. You don't want a house you got to walk in the home and then go up the stairs to get to the top floor. You got to have separate access. But if you buy a single family house with 5% down, and then you just do some small conversions, add a kitchenette and frame off one part of the house from the other, like you end up with what's basically essentially a duplex. And so that's a way around the whole, I have to put down more than 5% to buy small multifamily.
Okay, thanks.
Was that the
helps.
question you were asking? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
Is that the same direction you were going in?
Yeah, I think I hate to give up the great FHA rate that I have. And so I wasn't really sure the play there, the financing.
Well, let's try not to. Have you talked to one of my guys, or do you already have a loan officer that you're working with?
I'm working with a local bank. Henry actually turned me on to somebody. I have a portfolio loan for my cabin in Branson, and I'm trying to build a relationship with that local bank. Hopefully, maybe I can do a 5% loan. And to your point on the ADU in Fayetteville, Arkansas, they just passed an ordinance that they will allow actually 2 ADUs
Yeah.
on a single family. So maybe that's what I need to do. I need to look for a single family in a good area. It's a college town.
That
And
has the right floor plan to
Yeah.
convert, right? So that no one talks about this again. I tend to focus on the things I don't hear other people say. Like, I'm not going to tell you guys the same stuff you could hear everywhere, even if it makes sense, because you probably already heard it. But when I'm walking houses, I'm actively looking at the floor plan of the house. Okay. Like, if they put a bathroom and there's already plumbing on this side of the house and it's got a separate entrance and it's already got the windows where I want them and it's got 2 bedrooms and this open area, and I knock down this one wall and I now have a family room plus 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, and then I could put a kitchen right on the other side of the bathroom because the plumbing's there. That house is worth more to me than it would be to somebody else. And so I would put a higher emphasis on going after it because you can convert stuff into ADUs pretty easy. I really like unfinished basements, this big space that I don't have to build a whole new structure. I don't have to pour new foundation, right? I just take the space that's already there and I put up walls, and the plumbing is already right above it. I can just push it right down and I can fix this house up and double the size of it, or make it into 2 units or 3 units. And Arkansas is wanting you to do that. Look for angles like that other people are missing, and you can find something on the MLS that would work really good that all your competition is just passing up because they're looking at duplexes.
Okay, thanks. That helps.
Yep. Thank you, Rebecca. All right, guys. Thank you for joining me here on the first ever David Green Real Estate YouTube and Facebook Live. This video should be posted on YouTube. I'm just now getting into this space. So if you guys could leave me a comment as you're listening to this and tell me what you think about it, what we should have done better, what you would have liked to have heard more of, I can promise you I'll get better on the next one. So I thought this went pretty good for the first one ever. I'm sure that there's some things that can be tightened up. And just in case, some housekeeping, if you guys heard me talk about anything and you wanted to check it out more, you can sign up for my newsletter at DGT Live. That's like David Green Team Live.com/text letter. It's called Behind the Shine. You can learn about my mastermind at davidgreenmastermind.com. Adam Brammer was in here, said he recommended it. Appreciate that, Adam. Thank you. He's in the mastermind now before prices go up. If you sign up for the newsletter, you will get information about the Scottsdale retreat that I'll be putting together. Hopefully that goes well, and I do more of those in the future. I'd like to start putting together some more stuff where you kind of have an intimate setting where people can ask more questions and get in depth. It's cool to do that on these type of talks, but you can't ever really go as deep as what you want to get into as you can in those in-person events. Please, if you're listening to this, like and subscribe to the channel. Check me out at the Bigger Pockets podcast. Bigger Pockets is probably the best company in the world when it comes to learning how to invest in real estate. So if you're hearing this and you don't know who Bigger Pockets is, you definitely want to check them out. And you can check out any of my books at biggerpockets.com/store. Have quite a few there. I'm on Instagram, everywhere else at davidgreen24. And I can't think of anything else that I might need to say. So, my website, davidgreen24.com. Go there. A lot of the stuff that we've been talking about is all kind of accumulated into one place. So, Melody gets my newsletters. Thank you for that, Melody. Hope you like them. And if you guys want to get in touch with me, just go to my Instagram, davidgreen24, send me a DM there, or that's probably the best way for now. Yeah, let's leave it at that, or leave a message in the comments. Somebody from my team will probably check it. Thank you, guys. Spread the word. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you get told the next time we're going to have a live, and bring your questions. Have a good weekend.